Today is Tuesday, November 17, 2015. This is the regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Johnson, Soboroff, Figueroa Villa, Kim, and Saltzman are present. Number one on the agenda, Commission comments.
Before we begin today, I would like to take a moment of silence to remember the victims of the ISIL terrorist attacks in Paris and Beirut. Thank you. Any commissioner comments this morning?
I do. I just wanted to make a statement. I missed last meeting. So while I missed the last meeting, and I did listen to on council phone, I wanted to add my support to President Johnson's vision and goals which he outlined last week. I think that President Johnson captured the urgent needs and challenges of law enforcement throughout the country and transformed them into action plan for Los Angeles and this commission. His vision is thoughtful and inclusive of many points of view, and I'm proud to support this very important initiative in this commission's ongoing responsibility of oversight. I did want to add that too. I really regret not being here, but I just could not make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one. Last week I attended a training in the lines of what you were speaking about yesterday. Is training of officers who, after 11 months, come back together and talk about community policing, talk about all the things that they're trained to do in today's world, and I found it was a wonderful program. It's a 3-day program. Every officer who hits, I think, the 11-month period will be coming back for this training, and it's just a part of the new ongoing training for the future, where LAPD is really taking a positive, proactive result. I thought it was really wonderful.
Thank you. As a part of my department briefings, I had the opportunity to meet with Deputy Chief Mike Downing and Captain Steve Sambar, Counterterrorism and Special Operations Bureau, and receive an overview of the department's capabilities and operational readiness. As a part of that orientation, I also had the opportunity to tour the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, which the LAPD is co-located with a number of other federal, state, county, and local law enforcement agencies. I was very impressed with all these operations that I've had the opportunity to tour, and we cannot overstate their importance in keeping us safe. Last Monday, I also had the opportunity to meet with staff and officers from Central Area, specifically Deputy Chief Jose Perez, Commander Bob Arcos, Captain Mike Oreb, Captain Don Graham, Lieutenant Andy Mathis, and Senior Lead Officer Dion Joseph, related to the challenges they face in policing the Central City area and Skid Row. We then went on a walking tour through a portion of the area. I was extremely impressed by their knowledge of the challenges facing the people who live in Skid Row area and the difficulty in resolving the multitude of issues the officers encounter. They have an incredibly difficult assignment and do their work with compassion, empathy, and a great deal of knowledge of the resources that are available to assist those who choose to take advantage of them. They are also keenly aware of the lack of resources and the need for a coordinated response to the homelessness issue by all levels of government, federal, state, county, and city. I understand this matters before the City Council today and look forward to their actions to begin a more concerted effort to find meaningful solutions. Do we have any comment on this item?
Yes, sir. We have 7 comment cards. We have the Red Chief Hunt, Jew Boy, Prentice Jenkins, Jamie Garcia.
Good morning.
Good morning to all the police commissioners. My name is the Red Chief Hunt. I'm really appalled about all of you commissioners up here. Last week I was arrested when Matt Johnson called a recess for the meeting. I was not only arrested, but I was arrested because of the color of my skin. You see, when you have a white mayor, a white chief of police, a white city attorney, a white state controller, and a white chief of police, you don't have a chance. This is the reason that I was arrested. During the Brown Act, it says that the meeting shall be open to the public no matter what. I was arrested because I was in the lobby, being in the lobby while black, and this is why I was really arrested. But nevertheless, I don't care because I've been arrested 71 times. I'm keeping on my wrist bracelet because you don't have to book me no more. You can keep the money because my attorney's going to send you a bill for $430,000. This is the second time that you guys have capriciously abused your discretion and arrested me for nothing. But this time you guys didn't put "fuck white niggers too" on the ticket. You know, you guys avoided that mistake. So, I mean, with that, I really want to apologize to Black Lives Matter. I said we did this on a democratic thing. We stood up and voted on the 2 minutes, and it went over a lot of people's heads. But this is a public meeting, and the Constitution always says, "We the people." This is what Ralph Brown was talking about, we the people. Please abide by the Brown Act. Please, if you make a mistake, be aware of that mistake and apologize to the people. It's not nothing like apologizing if you make a mistake and it's been done capriciously and facetiously. To the police commission, I just can't believe that you guys wouldn't accept a democratic vote from the public, which the meeting and the Constitution still in the United States of America says,
Mr.
we
Hunt, the
the
2 minutes
people.
are up.
There's no time on the clock.
Thank you.
Just right now.
There's clock. Right. No, the clock's not working.
Clock's not working, but we have a timekeeper over here. Your time's up. Thank you.
Okay, but just in respect, let me finish my last thought. The people were violated last week. Listen, if you guys want to file a lawsuit, just come over and talk to me. Thank you.
The clock fixed.
I was in the lobby at 11 a.m. last Tuesday, waiting to come back in. I had speaker cards. I asked to see a sergeant to submit those cards. I was told the meeting was filled, and it was filled just like today. All the seats taken, right? Sure. So at 11 p.m., a big, fat, disgusting, white pig fucking cop come out with a bullhorn and claimed he was going to claim that there was a dispersal order. Really? The lobby's part of this meeting area. That's why I told you not to hold your meetings here. But you don't listen. So now, while in front of the cameras, I was arrested and charged with attempted to incite a riot for failure to disperse. It's called time, place, and manner, and you violated my First Amendment rights. But you didn't stop there. 13 and a half hours later, on the morning of Veterans Day, I was finally released on a $5,000 bond. Why does it take 13 and a half hours to post a $5,000 bond on someone with no warrants? I was releasable under OR with a promise to appear notice, but you wouldn't give me that. You wouldn't give me that. So you want to torture people because they want to speak at your corrupt fucking meetings. That's what you want? Fine. The middle there, you gave me a card, you wanted to talk to me. A week later, I get arrested. I don't find that a valid means of communication. Do you? No.
Prentice Jenkins, followed by Jamie Garcia, Hamid Khan.
Prentice Jenkins, activist since 1991, City Life newsletter publisher. Like to acknowledge Black Lives Matter, L.A. Can, and Hamid Khan, Stop Police Spying. Government Code 54953. all meetings of legislative body of a local agency, which you are, a local agency, shall be open and public. And all persons shall be permitted, all persons. You can't keep out black people. You can't keep out white people. Can't keep out Asian people, Latino people. All people have the right to attend this meeting. You can't keep out Black Lives Matter or Stop LAPD Spying or LA Can, or you can't keep me out. All meetings of the legislative body of local agency except otherwise provided in this chapter. So I'm reading you the Ralph M. Brown Act. His name was Ralph Milton Brown. He was born in 1906. He wrote this in 1943 because he knew what you would do. He'd run into this in terms of what you would do to the public. I want to thank that magnificent bastard, Ralph Milton Brown, because he knew that people like you would try to keep people like us out. You know, people don't have any money. People don't have $1 billion, right? I don't have $1 billion. You can't. If you don't have $1 billion, you can't attend this police commission. If you don't work in Hollywood, you can't attend this police commission board. There's no room for anybody like us. We're just the peons, you know. We're the peasants. You know what peasants are? I'm sure Steve Soboroff knows what peasants are. Absolutely, he knows what peasants are. So Mr. Brown did this for us. He did it for a reason. He knew that people like yourself would become tyrants, and you would come out like gladiators, and we were the Christians.
It's Jamie Garcia, Hamid Khan, Pete White, and Melina Abdullah.
So, Mr. Johnson, you spoke about the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, and I just want to I find it interesting because this is the first time that you've actually gone to the center. This is the first time that maybe you've even got any kind of statements or information about this. So that's pretty disappointing because the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, this is the work that we're doing. This is the work that we're bringing to the table. This is the awareness we're trying to raise about these programs. So suspicious activity reports that go to this Fusion Center, that go to the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, are open on people engaged in everyday activities. And you'll see that in suspicious activity reports that were released by the ACLU. College students have 30-year FBI files now, so I don't consider that good work. So the Joint Regional Intelligence Center also pushed an elderly man against the wall, which we have footage when we attempted to file a PRA. They also called the sheriffs on me when we attempted to file a PRA. So I don't know if that's good work as well. So, and again, on suspicious activity reports, we know as a community of organizers, these reports are directly targeting us. There's a memo from the Department of Homeland Security which states, collect suspicious activity reports on any organization that believes that gentrification is a class war on the poor, which we know it is. So we know that these programs are a waste of resources. A Senate report came out saying that fusion centers, joint regional intelligence centers, are duplicative information, a waste of resources, and are of no use at all. So, and the last thing is we know that who they're targeting. Again, we've brought the information about suspicious activity reports. About 30% are collected on the black community. So this war on terror is just like the war on gangs. We know who these programs are affecting. We know who they're targeting. So I find these, during this time of mourning for many people about what happened in Paris, is a time to take advantage of the community and instill fear in the community to have these programs that we know are violating not only our human rights, our civil rights, our privacy, and that are again targeting communities that are tired of being targeted.
So you went and met with Mike Downing at the Counterterrorism Center. This is the LAPD's architecture of surveillance. I bet you Mike Downing didn't tell you that what this national security state has turned into, that how a term, and you're a lawyer, Matt Johnson, do you know a term called reasonable indication? Have you ever heard of that in law school or in your practice of law? Do you know how suspicious activity is defined? It's defined, and I quote, as observed behavior reasonably indicative of pre-operational planning of terrorist and or criminal activity. Did Mike Downing explain this to you? That reasonable indication is not a term? We have two law professors sitting on along with you. Kathleen Kim, have you ever heard of the term reasonable indication? Robert Salzman, have you ever heard of the term reasonable indication? You're a constitutional scholar. None of us have ever heard that. This is the LAPD's architecture of surveillance. This is how information is gathered. This is when you're moving, you're talking, you're breathing, you're driving. License plate readers, suspicious activity reporting, predictive policing, iWatch, see something, say something program. And let's talk about the fusion centers that you went to, the Joint Regional Intelligence Center. My colleague Jamie Garcia talked about it. Did you know that Senators Carl Levin and Tom Coburn issued a report on fusion centers saying that intelligence gathering at fusion centers is outdated, irrelevant, duplicative, useless, potential violation of Privacy Act protections? This is the information we want to share with you. And you're hiding behind this glass tower, and you don't want to meet with the community. We want to keep it public. We're still waiting to hear back from you. Richard T. Fank has been the intermediary, trying to message between you, LA Can, and the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. We are open. We are committed to meeting with you, but you are the one. But then you go to these things, and you don't get all the details as to how they are impacting our communities, how racial profiling is running rampant, how speculative policing and hunch-based policing is getting legitimized every day, and the kind of impact it's having on our community. It's right here. It's right here.
Thank you. Next comment.
Pete White, followed by Melina Abdullah.
Pete White, LA Can, Black Lives Matter. So, Matt, as a poker player and as a chess player, your tell is very apparent. Whenever you start reading, we know the lies are going to spill out the corners of your mouth, right? We know when you look down and read the statements that were given to you from across the street, everything that follows is BS, right? So when you talk about Skid Row, Deion Joseph and others didn't tell you that in the first 3 years of the Safer Cities Police Initiative, that 36,000 citations were given to 15,000 people. They didn't tell you that 27,000 arrests were made in primarily a 25 to 50 square block area of predominantly black people. That the language of compassionate policing was just more lies that was created to cover broken windows policing. So when you go and take those tours and you don't read the empirical data that's out there, but you read the statements that the master gives you, it just enrages our community. I wish I was here last week when you talked about you were alarmed and shocked. Everybody in this room is alarmed and shocked at the amount of violence used in the killings by the LAPD, seeing that they top the nation. It was interesting that the media, they were like, yo, the brother, he is alarmed. Maybe we're going to move in the right direction. But from the community's perspective, moving in the right direction is getting rid of the head of this department, who allows this department to lead the country shamefully. Moving in the right direction means overturning that thing that Bratton allowed John Mack to do, giving the little power that the police commission has to discipline officers back to the police department. If you want to lead, we got some shit for you to lead on, but not the rhetoric. Not the rhetoric. We're not buying it.
Melina Abdullah.
So, you know, we started this, or Matt Johnson, you started this with a moment of silence for Paris. And, of course, there was a tragedy in Paris. Of course, everybody's appalled by terrorist attacks. Of course, we mourn with the people who've been killed. But you sit as the head of a police commission that's supposed to be providing oversight, that's supposed to be preventing the very same terror from happening in our communities. And we haven't heard you say a moment of silence for Riddell Jones or a moment of silence for Ezell Ford. We haven't heard you say that. So what's that contrast, that you can talk about people in Paris but you can't do anything about black people in Los Angeles? What's up with that? I think Pete White is absolutely right. You and now Sandra Figueroa are reading from scripts. Stop reading from scripts. This is about our real lives. We have the mother of Kendrick McDade here. This is about her son's real life. We have Tritobia Ford, who comes here regularly. It's about her son's real life. Today, we just received the buttons for Riddell Jones, who was a mother of 2 children. You're supposed to be a father. You're supposed to have children. What if their mother was killed? You haven't even had the nerve to speak Riddell Jones' name. Nobody up here has. So what are you doing? What are you doing? We don't want your fancy language and you trotting out sellouts to stand at your back. You only got one this time, right? We want you to do something on behalf of the real community, not the folks who are on the payroll of whoever. We want you to do something. Do something to stop these police killings because Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Don't forget you're Black too.
We have no other comment cards on this item. We're now on item number 2, the report of the Chief of Police. Chief Pasinger.
Mr. President, members of the Commission,
Morning.
Good morning. This week's report for Part 1 crime is as follows. For violent crime, there's currently an 11.6% year-to-date increase for homicides. For sexual assaults, there's a 7.3% increase. Robberies are up 14.4%. Aggravated assaults are up 27.1%. For a total violent crime increase year-to-date of 20.4%. For property crime, burglaries are up 5.9%. Motor vehicle thefts are up 18%. Burglary and thefts from vehicle are up 15.1%. Personal thefts are up 7%, with a total property crime increase of 11%, which brings the total Part 1 crime increase year-to-date 12.8%. For Central Bureau, the increase year-to-date is 16.1%. For South Bureau is 9.7%. Valley Bureau 12.4%. And finally, West Bureau is up 13.5%. And that concludes the presentation for the Chief of Police.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions?
Do you have any comment cards?
We have 6 comment cards. We have the Red Chief Hunt, Drew Boy, Prentice Jenkins, Paula Miner, Michael Williams, and Hamid Khan, and Jamie Garcia. 7.
Good morning, the Red Chief Hunt here. I want to talk about crime statistics. I want to talk, number 1, what happened last week was a crime. I got a ticket, and it was part of the statistics because I got arrested while being black in the lobby. A lot of you guys don't care about that, but that's why being black in the lobby. Just like I told Matt Johnson and the rest of the commission, I said we got a white mayor, we got a white chief of police, we got a white city attorney, we got a white controller, and we got a white inspector. Black Matters don't have a chance. Black folks don't have a chance. This is why I keep on getting arrested 72 times. I refuse to take off my band. You don't have to book me no more. You can keep the plastic. Dr. King says, I once had a dream. I had a dream that I would be able to work too. I would have equal and fair rights. I have a dream. Now, my dream is I get arrested for working with a seller's permit. Now, here's a $100 ticket that's costing the city over $200,000. Just give me the $200,000 and I'll take the year off. You've done it before. I said, this is the same thing that you arrested me for outside vending with a seller's permit. That's a statistic. That's a ticket. That's a statistic. This is a statistic that my attorney will be sending you the bill for. Dr. King says, I once had a dream. We got one black person in our corner. Matt, are you going to show up for us? Are you going to show up for us? Out of everybody in the city, we got one black person. Now it's on you. I want to see if you're going to show up for the public. We the people. The Constitution said, we the people. We don't have nobody else. The rest of them are white.
Let's see here. Crimes, statistics. What do you call a jail? that doesn't have hot running water? What do you call a jail that doesn't even have a phone book? What do you call a jail where no one's rights are read to them? What do you call a jail that takes your fingerprints and lies that they were sent to the FBI and it takes 13 and a half hours to come back with those prints? What do you call a lobby area that's part of a Brown Commission meeting and it's turned into a dispersal area? So those are crimes. And the amazing part, we actually have 2 law professors on this panel. Well, Kathleen Kim and Robert Saltzman are law professors. Where did they get their law degrees? I don't think they passed a bar exam. I want to see the proof they passed a bar exam. I don't think they passed a bar exam. I don't think they graduated with a law degree. I don't think they know a fucking thing about the Constitution. Go ahead. Name me the 16th Amendment to the Constitution, Professor Kim. You don't even know what the fuck it is, but by the time I'm done talking, you'll Google it. It's prohibition against income taxes. So you don't know what the fuck the Constitution is all about, but you do know how to torture people because they speak at a public meeting. You do know how to create a chilling effect to where you hold these meetings in an area likely to cause a chilling effect. You do know how to shut the entire front of the police department down, so you have to walk all the way in the back to come into this meeting. That's right, because separate but equal. So your friends get to walk through the front door. The rest of us got to take the back door because we're just the little house fools.
Prentice Jenkins, City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. I want to acknowledge Dr. Abdullah, she's right. We didn't give Riddell Jones or Ezell Ford, Brendan Glenn, Angie Guzman, we didn't give them a moment of silence. So I'm going to give them 10 seconds of silence. Okay, I'm going to read you the Riot Act again. Government Code 54950. Now, this is a public school graduate reading this to you. All law degrees up there. In enacting this chapter, the legislature finds and declares that the public commissions, boards, and councils and the other public agencies in this state exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. We are the people. Apparently you don't know who the people are. The people of this state do not yield their sovereignty. You know what sovereignty means? I know the law professors know. It means control or power. They do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. You are the agency that serve us. The people, in delegating authority, we delegate authority to you, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. You are our public servants. We are not yours. This is the Brown Act. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments that they have created. You are the instrument that we have created. And apparently, we have created a monster. That's exactly what we've created. You people took bullhorns and forced us out of this building, this is why this man wrote this, so you wouldn't take bullhorns and force us out of the building.
Paula Miner.
Good morning. I'm speaking on the chief's report. I, too, was prevented from coming back into the meeting to be able to give public comment on Chief Beck's report last week, and I really have some comments about that. But first of all, I'd like to comment on the fact that every chief's report starts with statistics. And I do have to say that no matter how many statistics show police contact, police arrests, how great they are, and the number of police killings seems to be what you call a minute percentage, they are still wrong. The statistics do not balance out the killings. In regard to what Chief Beck said last week, which I did not get to comment on, is a highly unusual situation. We from Black Lives Matter and other social justice groups find ourselves in agreement with the LA Police Union. They have said they are against the chief's recommended Preservation of Life Medal, which is supposed to be awarded to officers when they can use commendable restraint. You know, I know there are a lot of people on the commission who might know what commendable restraint is, but we do not know what that means. We believe that it should be a matter of policy and day-to-day practice that police use commendable restraint. We wear this pin in honor of Riddell Jones, a homeless woman who was killed by LAPD in August, shot in the back, alleged to have had a kitchen knife. LAPD should know that many homeless women, many women on the street carry knives, carry weapons to protect themselves from possible assaults, both physical and sexual. Trying to resolve serious situations without killing a person is what LAPD should do. No medal should be given for doing what should be policy and practice, but accountability should occur when there is excessive force and killing. We wear the pin in honor of Riddell Jones, and I ask you all to say her name. Riddell Jones. Say her name.
Michael Williams.
You all always come out here and you guys quote statistics and things about that. It's noticeable that all the crime is up. So I don't know what you guys are doing. You guys are killing people, and all the crime. You're not stopping crime apparently. So I don't know what you guys are doing right. But you guys started the meeting talking about what police do right, and it was interesting that I was watching a show. It's a popular show. It's a comedy show actually. Where they were talking about the same issues. They were talking about the police, the public perception of police, right? And they went originally with, they were going to talk about all the good stuff that the police do, how proud they are to be police, how proud they are to wear the blue and all that stuff. And people backlashed against them. They were like, okay, we don't care. You guys still are doing wrong. So they finally admitted that they were doing wrong. And they asked the public, what can we do to fix it? Now, this is a comedy show. This is a fictional comedy show. And they have a better solution to how to deal with the public than you guys. They actually figured out that you have to ask the people how you can fix the problem. That you guys can't just keep talking about what you guys are doing right and ignoring what you guys are doing wrong. There's a problem here in LAPD. When you're leading the country and people killed, that's a problem. It's in double digits. Year's not even over. So get a grip on it. You're not going to stop us from coming here by locking us out. You're not going to stop us coming here by trying to silence us, cutting our time, doing all this thing. You're not going to stop us by arresting us. All you're going to do is build more and more people to come here. You're going to build more and more people to start organizing and forming groups. That's all you're going to do. The only way you're going to stop us from talking to you, speaking to you, and coming here is if you do what we ask you to do. That's it. That's the only answer to stop us from doing this. It's not going to stop. The disruptions are not going to stop. Everything is not going to stop just because you want to silence us and try to say that we're disrupting your meeting. It's not going to stop.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. The next three speakers, Hamid Khan, Jamie Garcia, and Melina Abdullah.
You're disrupting the meeting. You need to be seated. You need to be seated. You're disrupting the meeting. You're continuing to disrupt the meeting. If you disrupt again, you're going to be asked to leave.
So yesterday was 320th day of the year. Yesterday was also the 1,000th murder by police forces in the United States. When you do the math, in 320 days, it's 7,680 hours. when you divide that by 1,000 murders, that comes to every 7.68 hours, which is 7 hours and 41 minutes. Every 7 hours and 41 minutes in this country, somebody is being murdered by law enforcement. It's 10:07 in Los Angeles in the morning. LAPD leads the country with 20 murders already in this year. When you met with Mike Downing, Matt Johnson, did he tell you that these programs, and look at me when I'm speaking to you, did he tell you that these programs for counterterrorism are now used in domestic policing? Did he tell you that the SAR program is a counterterrorism program? Did he tell you that predictive policing is a counterinsurgency program out of Afghanistan? Did he tell you that the dirt boxes are used by the FBI and the CIA in Afghanistan? Did he tell you that Stingray was developed over there? Did he tell you that Identity Domain Systems 2, which is now looking at biometrics and how biometrics are being used in body cameras? Did he tell you that the LA Sheriff's Department, in partnership with the LAPD, is establishing a 15 million subject biometrics collection? No wonder people are being murdered like that, because we're considered insurgents. No wonder people are being killed, because these are the programs which are designed for counterterrorism and counterinsurgency are being codified and used every day in local policing. And you are responsible for that. Did he tell you, Kathleen Kim, you as a law professor, that you are failing in your oversight? Did he tell you, Robert Salzman, as a law professor, you're failing in your oversight? I'm not going to speak to Steve Soboroff because he's just a useless person. But at least some of you others should have some decency.
Thank you for your comments.
Some decency. A little bit of
Amy
decency,
Garcia.
a little bit of humanity, a little bit of decency to look at these things and how
Time is
these are
up.
creating
Your time
murders
is
and
up, sir.
killings of
Please
our
take
people.
your seat.
So as what was stated before is that we reached 1,000, and I know last time I was up here, Mr. Johnson, and we were talking about that. I actually was naive to think that we wouldn't, but I realized this is actually not the first time. So I wanted to go back to your interview last week on KPCC, and I acknowledge the comment that you said that you'll see a success when you see a decrease in the use of force. So I acknowledge that, but of course it's not enough. And as a police commissioner, you serve us, and that's been stated time and time again when people come up here. And I think that it's kind of dismissed because we see what is valued here. The community can't come and give presentations. The community can't come and present their information. We only see LAPD come here and present information, and then when they're done, they leave. They don't even stay for our comments about what they've presented. So one thing also that was stated in that interview is that you said, and they brought up all the disruption that's been occurring here, and you said that it's just one organization. It's just Black Lives Matters. So first of all, that's dismissive. It's dismissive to think that the power of one group coming to you, raising issues, is not something that should be taken seriously. Second of all, it's dismissive to us. It's dismissive to the rest of the people that have been here long, long before you've been here. So we have Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, Los Angeles Community Action Network, Youth Just Coalition, and you didn't even have the decency to mention our names in that interview. So, and then we have all the countless of organizations that support the work we're doing. So we're organized, we're substantive, and we are a community. And then on top of that, you didn't even acknowledge that this is a national dialogue. So it's not just one organization. This is nationally happening as well. So, and I wasn't going to bring that up, but I couldn't help but just be really annoyed and really upset and really just felt like my time and time again coming here was completely just ignored by you. So again, I ask you to, and at this point it's like a demand to meet with the community. Step out of this comfort zone that you're in. Step out of, as my colleague said, this glass castle and come into the community, not just by an escorted walk through the community, but meet with people who have been coming here time and time again. Set the time. We can deal with the location after that.
Thank you for your comments.
Melina Abdullah.
So I'm not surprised that Paysinger is here today because Chief Beck, I've noticed this pattern that he dips out every time there's something controversial that comes up. So I wanted, since he's not here, let's get to the controversy. You have a police chief who leads the most murderous police department in the entire nation. killed 20 people this year, his officers has shot double the number this year as they shot last year. So let's get to the controversy and let's get to the demand. Matt, you need to fire Chief Beck. You need to fire him. He has to go. He is failing. If we want real community policing, we know that that's what your Hollywood script says that we are in Los Angeles, right? If we want real community policing, then he has to go because he is not the face of community policing. That's demand number one. Fire Beck. Demand number two, and you have the power to do this yourself, stop meeting in here inside LAPD headquarters where the community can't come in, where we're surrounded by officers. There's more officers than there are community members. This is supposed to be our police commission. Instead, you're giving deference to the police, constantly treating with them with respect while you treat us with disdain. Move this into the community so that it can be a real civilian oversight body. You are a civilian. You are not an arm of the police department. So do something better. So we want you to do that now. We want you to move that now. We want you to stop hiding behind these lies and the absences in the statistics. And remember that you have killed 20 people, and that's on your head. That's on your head, Matt Johnson, and it's on your head. Stop being the smiley face whenever Chief Beck gets scared of the community, right? So let's make sure that this is something that actually moves forward justice, because we're not doing that right now. This is a state of injustice, and the people aren't going to sit down but for so long. We gonna get up. You know we're gonna get up. That's what's happening all around the country.
There are no other comment cards on this item. We're now on item number 3, consent agenda items. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which the board is provided with adequate information for approval without inquiry or discussion. We do have a public comment card on each item and 2 cards on item C.
Okay, let's call those cards, please.
Okay, and it's Drew Boy will be the 1 card for each item.
Okay, we'll and then you said there's 2 on C.
2 on C, which
So
is
we'll let's do
that one first.
Let's do C first, and then we'll do the rest.
Okay, the first speaker on C will be the Red Chief Hunt.
He's currently busy. They're trying to pay him off outside. It's true. It's actually true. They're actually going to pay him off. Now, I should be next. I spent 13 and a half hours.
Then we'll go with 3A.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
See, I'm the one that was tortured for 13 and a half hours, so where's my money? See, it's all about the money. See, John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.com, speaking a number of years.
Item 3A, you have to stay on topic.
Okay, we don't want to make the Nazis mad. Heil Johnson. So we have Big 5 Corporation. It's a corporation. It's doing business as Big 5 Sporting Goods. Yes, it's hard to tell that, isn't it? Big 5 Corporation doing business as Big 5 Sporting Goods. Why the fuck can't it just be doing business as Big 5? Everybody knows it's called Big 5. You've seen it all over the place. And now what do they want to do here? Oh, they want to sell ammunition. They want an ammunition permit. Well, it's no use having ammunition in Los Angeles because according to the Drudge Report, every time you have a burglar call, the first thing the police do is they come out and they grab all your weapons and your ammunition because they say they don't want the burglar to come back after they leave, that they might steal the gun and the ammunition. And then they hold it, and then they return your guns, and they keep the ammunition. So actually, if you want to buy ammunition, the best place to buy it is right here in this building. You have a lot of ammunition that you stole from people like John Brazurian, the Second Amendment rights activist. You can't be that in Los Angeles. You can't have a First Amendment right here in Los Angeles. So why don't you sell the ammunition you have that you've stolen over the last 20 years to the lawful gun owners at a discount? That way you'll get it back into the hands of the people, and then you don't have to have Big 5 taking everybody's fingerprints when they buy a bullet.
We have the same speaker on 3B.
Yes, these are all very significant items. Let's see. We have an ammunition vendor permit for Big Five Corporation, and it's doing business as Big Five Sporting Goods. And of course, the verbiage in B is not exactly the same as A, because you take so much time, you wouldn't actually cut and paste these items, would you? No, it took you hours to prepare this agenda. You sat there over the weekend, in fact, overtime, preparing these word-by-word agenda items. BPC number 15-0356, a vendor permit for ammunition. You can't have a vendor permit for ammunition because you've got everybody's bullets. You won't return the bullets to the people you stole it from on these phony burglar calls. Why don't you sell that ammunition you got? You didn't destroy it. You're holding it somewhere. You got a bunker somewhere, probably in Topanga. You probably got all the ammunition over there. You're probably hiding it in there. So why don't you sell the ammunition to the people instead of having them go through these vendors? And the answer is because, well, that would violate Soboroff's first rule, graft and campaign donations. And you can't have graft and campaign donations if you have third-party vendors, right? You guys could sell the ammunition yourselves. You could buy it in bulk, 40% less than you can buy it anywhere else, and free of sales tax. People could come right in here. Now, of course, like me, first time they have to be arrested in the lobby, because you got to be arrested and detained and placed in an elevator and fucking held there for an hour where they yell at you, keep to the back, don't turn your head. You know, because you turn your head in this fucking city with cops, you know what happens. You get fucking shot. You know what happens, right?
We have the same speaker for 3C.
Wow, this is interesting. Let's see. I haven't seen this before in today's agenda. A firearms vendor permit for Big Five Corporation doing business as Big Five Sporting Goods. You mean you couldn't have taken all A, B, and C and combined them into one permit? Well, the reason you don't do that, of course, is that they wouldn't have to give separate donations to all your little charities and all your little phony third-party nonprofits. So now, first you got to sell the bullets. Now you got to sell the firearms. Again, why? Yes, somebody said that Soboroff is an asshole, and I can't agree with that. You know, I mean, I can't agree with that. He's a Nazi, but not an asshole. So, firearms vendor permits. Why don't you sell the guns?
I ask you why you keep talking about Nazis and swastikas and Heil when 6 million people were annihilated. Just tell me where it comes to you to stand there and Heil Hitler and wear a swastika and talk about Nazis. What is your point? Be quiet. No. What is your point?
The point is that you're no fucking better than they were. That's the point. You're no better than a Hitler. You're no better. You do the same thing. You gave me a near pneumonia when you held me in your goddamn jail, when you turn the temperature down and bring in people. That's why I'm speaking like this. I've been sick since I got out of your fucking jail. That is a form of torture. And that's exactly what you do. You torture people in your jails. And you go home to your country clubs. While I sat for 13 and a half hours and I watched people come in. People that had no arrests, that were held for no reason at all. That's why I give you your fucking swastika and your Heil Hitler, because it's called symbolic free speech. Because you shoot people. Innocent fucking people are being shot by your cops because they're black and they're in a particular zip code at the wrong fucking time. And then you take the people. No. He's directly. This is not just Brown Act. He violated the Brown Act by talking to me. Okay? So he wanted me to answer the question. You're taking homeless people and you're displacing them so they can redevelop the areas while you kill and torture people. That's why.
The Red Chief Hunt on this item. Not present. We have Wayne on 3D, followed by Ted Hayes.
Back again. Well, let's see.
Ma'am, you're interrupting the meeting.
Well,
if you continue to interrupt
No.
the meeting, you're going to be asked to leave.
she's having a point of order. A point of order is not a disruption under the Brown Act. The firearms ammunition sales permit for Kenneth Cack Lee, Big Five Corporation. You forgot to put down they're doing business as Big Five Sporting Goods. You have to revoke item number D because under the Brown Act, you have failed to notice the correct business entity. You cannot give Big Five Corporation itself a firearms ammunition permit unless you state which division of the corporation it is under. But because you're so worried about me and you're so worried that I'm still alive after you tried to fucking kill me in your jail last week, you forgot to put down doing business as Big Five Sporting Goods. Since you did not put that verbiage in there, D is not approvable. You cannot approve item D because item D is not noticed correctly under the Brown Act. It is illegal. If anybody were to challenge this in court under that technicality, this permit would be revocable. I would move this board to suspend action on item D, refer it back to the city attorney for corrections, and re-agendize item D as such time that is properly noticed and legally with specificity stating which business it's under. See, some of us know about business. Some of us know about the Brown Act. The people running this meeting, the only thing you know about is fear because you're scared, and that's why you're in here afraid. What are you afraid of?
You're off topic.
I was not afraid to contact this item on item D, so don't be afraid to change it when it's wrong.
Mr. Ted Hayes on 3D.
Someone left their glasses. I was pleased to see that the clock was stopped during that response by Commissioner Sobolov and then restarted once his inquiry had concluded.
Mr. Hayes, the item is 4E, 3E. Please stay on topic.
3D.
When the Walmart opened at the Baldwin Hills Plaza, Big Money Griff went to them and told them they could not sell ammunition or firearms in the black community. One man did that. That shows the power of an activist who's determined to see to it that firearms and bullets not be available in the community. Not that you can't go someplace else and get them, but that is what Big Money Grip did. Recently, in front of City Hall East, Councilman had a Stop Gun Violence meeting in front of City Hall rally. Not one black commissioner was there. Not Wesson, not Price, not Halston Dawes. So I went to their office to find out why they weren't there. One said I wasn't invited. I said, have you heard about crashing the party? No response. The other office said, we looked out the window, we saw them, we decided we would not join. And the other one had some weak thing about, well, we knew about it, but we didn't decide to attend. So that's the level of two kinds of people in the black community. The activists who simply want to say no guns, no ammunition, which means nothing really, and the politicians who represent the area where most gun violence takes place. They did not bother to show up. Not one of them.
We have Wayne on 3E and Prentice Jenkins 3E.
Sig Heil, off topic. Okay, so we have a firearm ammunition sales permit for our good friend Vidal Cleotilde. Well, Big Five Corporation, which entity doing business as what? You don't state. So therefore, Mr. Vidal Cleotilde, as this is worded, if you approve it, may take his sales permit to any Big Five that is owned by Big Five Corporation, not only in LA City, the county, and the state, because you are issuing him a statewide corporate permit to sell firearms and ammunition because you have failed to state with specificity the limitation on which subdivision of the corporate entity Big Five is under the sales permit. So if you find my good friend Vidal Clotilde in any of the 78 incorporated cities of LA County, as long as he's in a Big Five sporting goods, he just shows his firearms and ammunition permit, and he can sell you any gat he wants anywhere in the city and the state. And that's the power of the Police Commission of LA City, because that's what you really want. You want more guns on the streets. You need more guns on the streets. You need more minority on minority violence. You need people to have these in their houses, so later on, when you come knocking on the door, then they don't have their paperwork. They are immediately chargeable with a crime. So it doesn't matter to have a weapon in Los Angeles City because the cops are just going to come in and take it. So don't have a firearm in the city of Los Angeles. Do what Charlie Beck does. Live outside L.A. County. In San Bernardino County, you can have a gun. They actually abide by the First Amendment. God bless San Bernardino County.
Prentice Jenkins on 3E.
Prentice Jenkins, activist in 1991 and publisher of City Life newsletter. Now let me get this straight. Osama bin Laden, when he was alive, could have gotten an ID that said his name was Al-Qaeda. Stay with me here. And he could have gone to Big Five Corporation and said, I want that shotgun, 2 of those, AR-47s, what are they? And I need 100 of those. He could have bought 100 of those in a crate. And you, this commission, would have approved his permit. Right? I'm just glad they don't sell grenades. Can you imagine if Big Five sold grenades? You are the people that are actually allowing these permits. Now, I'm not one to restrict anyone's rights. We're here talking about don't restrict our rights. And we're telling people to restrict gun owners' rights. I'm not about to do that. There was a time I would, but I won't anymore. There's an old saying, you may not want a gun until you need one. And God knows in this country, we need guns. I thought we needed guns against the killers and robbers. Apparently, we need guns for cops. Can you imagine if Zell Ford had a gun, he would have had a chance. He didn't have a gun. I'm not advocating people kill cops. That is quite the contrary. But I'm saying this. Do you people continue to give people permits? Do you even know who Vidal Clotilde is? You're going to give him a permit, and you don't even know who he is. He could be Al-Qaeda. You know what I mean.
We have Wayne on 3F.
Again, you didn't do your editing. Big Five Corporation, doing business as what? So you're giving a corporation a statewide permit under your verbiage. So today's winner is David Ramirez Rodriguez. David Ramirez Rodriguez, would you come up to the front? You're the next winner of the Firearms Ammunition Sales Police Permit winner. Hey! Yes, step on up. Now you have a statewide permit. See, that's nice. The president walks out of the meeting while I talk. Well, we don't need him. We just need Steve. So, David Ramirez Rodriguez, go ahead and sell all the guns you want statewide, countywide, because they've given you a carte blanche permit. Make sure also that every county you go into, make sure they have a reciprocity agreement with L.A. County so that if you have a police firearms and ammunition permit that it's reciprocal. Get as many stores open as possible. Sell as many guns and ammunition as possible. Now, when they shut you down, do the right thing. Get on a jet and go to France. That way you don't have extradition, but you have to be a French citizen. But that will be for another commission meeting. So, firearms and ammunition. What do we need firearms and ammunition for anyway? I thought you guys didn't want firearms and ammunition proliferating in the city. Thought you were against that. But your whole agenda for the police department is to put more guns and bullets in the hands of the lowly people. What is your plan? Why are you doing this? Say no to violence, no to guns and ammunition, and yes to peace.
Weighing on 3G.
Chris Alijo. Stand up! Come forward! You're the winner of the next firearms and ammunition sales permit statewide, because Big Five Corporation was not limited to its stores. So as long as you work for Big Five Corporation, whatever they have, you can sell. Guns and ammunition. Because the police department now wants everyone to buy guns, 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 and more and more and more bullets. And more bullets, and more bullets. They don't want the people to learn how to defend themselves without a firearm or ammunition. I was trained how to do that, hand-to-hand combat. So I don't need a firearm, and I don't need an ammunition. I don't want a firearm, and I sure the fuck don't want any ammunition near me, because I don't need it. If somebody's going to come in and shoot you, they're just going to fucking do it. So what are you going to do with your big gun? Somebody breaks into your house. What are you going to do with your big gun? You're going to grab it in the middle of the night? You'd be scared to death. See, studies have been done without proper defensive training. A gun is as useful as these glasses against an attacker. Okay? These glasses are more useful because at least you could jab somebody in the fucking eye with it. Okay? Little people with little penises and great big guns and great big bullets sitting in all these houses and all these white upper middle class and high class areas, sitting there armed to the teeth, and yet out there raising money for people to restrict the right of the Second Amendment and using this department to invade people's houses to take their guns. That's called duality. You are duplicitous. You are wrong. You are rotten.
Weighing on 3H.
Today's winner, Nicholas Joseph Surliza. Come on down. You're the next winner of the firearms ammunition sales permit. Again, you know, I know it was a holiday. You're tired. You forgot to actually check the wording of this. You're giving a statewide permit to Big Five Corporation instead of ABC, where you limited it to Big Five Sporting Goods is doing business as Big Five Sporting Goods. So you're not restricting Nicholas Joseph Surliza. So what nationality is this name? I mean, as Soboroff correctly pointed out, race of everybody is important. Nationality is important. That looks like an Italian name to me. Surliza. That looks like an Italian name. Any Italians up here in this panel? I know back there they're having a great discussion over there. I know that right now Commissioner Kim is talking about what she's going to have for lunch today after she leaves this meeting.
Last warning.
Yeah, she's going to. Oh well, we don't want to violate the meeting. Oh no, now we're getting into something different. Approve the executive directives. Oh, I'm on that tightrope. Tightrope of the executive director's report and firearms, ammunition, police permit. Tightrope. Nicholas Joseph Surliza, Italian name, Big Five Corporation. So, look at you guys. Aren't you proud of yourselves? the whole alphabet being used because there's so many of these firearm and ammunition permits. Don't buy guns in this city. Don't be caught with a gun in your house, please, because they're going to come and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Don't do it.
Weighing on 3I.
Fernando Malaga. Again, another firearms ammunition sales permit. How many people do we have to have in a meeting to sell guns and ammunition? This is ridiculous. And that means Big Five may possibly be doing other things for this commission. Well, in fact, I saw them donate some merchandise a couple of weeks ago here at this very police commission meeting. Has that been run through the Ethics Commission yet for possible conflict of interest?
Stay on topic. This is your last warning.
Big Five.
There will be no other warning. You will be asked to leave this meeting. Last warning.
Executive Director's Report dated October 27, 2015, relative to the approval of the firearms ammunition sales police permit for Fernando Malaga, Big Five Corporation, BBC number 15-0349. Recommendations for board action. Approve the executive director's report and firearms ammunition sales permit. Vote no on this permit because it is not legally stated under the Brown Act and under the municipal laws of the city charter of the city of Los Angeles. It is a revocable permit because it lacks specificity as to location, time, place, and manner of issuing such firearms ammunition permit. Please do not vote for this, or the city will be issuing a revocable firearms permit.
Weighing on 3J.
Jason Eshanovsky. Yes, come on down. Executive Director's Report dated October 27, 2015, relative to the approval of a firearms ammunition sales police permit. Big Five Corporation, without a DBA, without a situs set forth. So the Big Five Corporation is being given a statewide permit, a citywide permit. Time, place, and manner is not specified. So Big Five Corporation has carte blanche to use this permit for this salesman anywhere within at least the city limits, if not the county limits, because you have failed to agendize the item on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act to limit the situs and the specific business conduct that the firearms and ammunition sales police permit can be used. Why is this being done? The city attorney has been put on notice at this meeting and the prior several items of the same issue. And the city attorney has not been asked by the commission if, in fact, this permit is overbroad and not specific enough to be granted under the careful scrutiny of a police commission that should limit strictly the time, place, and manner of the firearms and ammunition sales. So they want to approve the executive director's report and firearms ammunition sales permit. No, I think you should deny it because you know that what you've done here is that you've created a right in these people beyond what is considered to be a reasonable restraint. Even under the Second Amendment, there are time, place, and manner restrictions. There's an overproliferation of firearms in this country. Do not pass this amendment. Vote no on it.
Weighing on 3K, followed by Michael Williams.
Yes. Executive Director's Report. Oh, look again. Big Five Corporation, but what are they doing business as? An airport? Alexander Antonio Valiente, another big winner, gets to sell firearms and ammunition in this city. Now, does the city require Alexander Antonio Valiente to provide notice to these firearm and ammunition purchasers that there's certain things that have been going on in the city that they should be reasonably noticed about? Such as, if a burglar alarm goes off in a house and the call is based on a suspected theft of firearms and ammunition, any police officer can require those firearms and ammunition be locked up and detained right here in police headquarters until the threat has been abated. Has anybody been given notice of that? Now, that's important because a person who purchases firearms and ammunition may have a cause of action against Big Five Corporation for knowing this. Why would Big Five Corporation know this? Because Big Five Corporation has been to these commission meetings many times before, and they have a litany of many, many permits. But they need to tell their purchasers as a matter of notice and right that if they have a firearm, they need to take specific precautions in the event that a burglar alarm in their house accidentally goes off and LAPD is dispatched to their house. The magic words: if somebody attempted or reasonably is thought to have attempted to steal firearms on a burglar call, they can take your weapons and your ammunition, never return your ammunition, and maybe get your firearms back after a couple of years of intense litigation. Vote no on K.
Michael Williams, 3K. Is Michael Williams here? Okay, there are no other comment cards, sir.
Mr. President, if I may, on all of these items related to the firearm sellers permits, if I could just clarify something. A, B, and C on the agenda are for the store itself to be able to sell a firearm or ammunition under the LA Municipal Code. D through K is for an individual as an employee of a store to make a living to sell a firearm or ammunition must have an individual permit issued to them. It is only for the city of Los Angeles. It is only to comply with the Los Angeles Municipal Code. Cannot be sold anywhere outside the city of Los Angeles, and they must be an employee of Big Five. These are routine matters before the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Tufang. Do I have a motion?
Move approval of items 3A through 3K.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you. We're now on item number 4, regular agenda items. We do have comment cards on all items. We have 3 on A, 2 on B, 4 on C, 5 on D, and 1 on E. We'll begin with 4A, verbal presentation and update from the commanding officer and Community Police Advisory Board representative regarding community-initiated problem-solving, crime strategies, and other programs and goals within the Topanga area.
Mr. President, unfortunately, our computers have had a glitch today, so you're not going to be able to see the screen projection. So if you do want to see the PowerPoint, just turn around, just for the public's information. You're not being discourteous.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Chief Basinger. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Captain Alan Hamilton. I'm the Patrol Commanding Officer at Topanga area. I'm going to open with some very brief notes. I would just like to thank our Topanga officers and civilians who have done an outstanding job this year. And then I'm going to turn it over to our TPAP Chair, Bob Bash. We are currently one of the most productive divisions in the San Fernando Valley and Operations Valley Bureau. And as a note, we are also constantly and steadily improving in our risk management numbers, which I'll be able to get into after our presentation if you have any further questions. This time I'd like to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, sir. Good morning or good afternoon. Yeah, it's still morning.
Still morning.
This is my 5th presentation at as a CPAB co-chair. I've been with the Topanga Police Station now ever since it opened up 7 years now. In addition to being co-chairman, I'm also a front desk volunteer. I've been working the front desk for 7 years, and I have some pretty interesting insights as to what I've seen in those 7 years. But now I'm going to talk about CPAB a little bit. Our membership demographics are currently at 28 members. It says 27 up there, but we have a new one that just came in after we made the slides up. It's broken down by male 15 and female 13, business 10, school 5, residence 12, and they're spread out amongst our community pretty evenly. We have a large contingent of volunteers at our station. We have a total of 104 members who are all volunteers, some of whom had been with us since the beginning when the station opened. And what those volunteers do, they work the detective front desk, the patrol front desk, as I do. Volunteer surveillance team, we have 38 members who are in volunteer surveillance team. They work in the community relations office. We have a clergy council, and we have boosters. One of the more interesting parts about the Topanga Station is our kids programs. Our Topanga Police Youth programs, currently we have 690 children in our youth program. That's up from 2013, where it was 316, and 2014, 550. We've increased 25% over 2014. It's broken down by 140 cadets, 100 junior cadets, and 450 PALs. Those are the young kids, the little ones. Our CPAB 2015 accomplishments, and I'm going to skip over some of these, but we had a CPAB summit, the first ever, and I was the originator of that, and we had it at the Warner Center Marriott, and we had 170 members there present. Red Cross and other members of the community were there also. We're going to do it again coming this March. We ran a hygiene program for collection and distribution for children. We found some young children who were in our PALS program who were sharing a toothbrush in their family. 3 or 4 kids, one toothbrush. So we got together and we collected all types of hygiene products for them, and we distributed it to all these young kids. We still have some left over, but we're trying to make sure that their hygiene is adequate. One thing we're doing also is a force option simulator. Last year we ran all our CPAB members through force option simulator. This next year we're going to do it again, but we're not using a gun. We're putting them through a stop action type thing, and we're doing it at our open house where we're going to bring in the civilian population and let them see what the force option simulator program is like. So we get a better idea of what our officers out on the streets are facing when they have to make a decision as to draw or not draw. We think that's going to go over very well with our community. We just recently had a CPAB tour of our communications group to let our people know also what our PSRs go through. When you call 911, what happens when that phone rings and the PSR answers that telephone? So we brought them down there and we showed them. We had the PSRs actually play some of the recordings so they understood what they were faced with. And we at the front desk are faced with some of those same calls, only they call us instead of calling 911. We're reestablishing our Emergency Preparedness Committee. We're revising our Map Your Neighborhood program. We're doing it differently than the Red Cross is doing. We feel that our community is going to do it a little bit better, a little bit different. And we had a real interesting presentation about 3 weeks ago from our neighborhood prosecutor. It was a fantastic presentation letting us know what they're doing to help our community.
Your neighborhood what?
Prosecutor.
Prosecutor.
Oh, okay.
Not persecutor, prosecutor. We have enhanced communication via social media. We have our own website. We do Facebook. We do Twitter. We do Nixle. And we, of course, do email. We established goals for our CPAB. We did that about 2.5 years ago. I won't go into all the individual structure of what those goals are, but the basic goals were, number one was improve service at the front desk, which I've been a part of. Reduce burglary from motor vehicles, and that's an interesting statistic. I have to give this a statistic. In 2013, Topanga had 1,054 BFMVs, burglary from motor vehicles. Now, year to date, in 2015, we have 906, and if we continue at that run rate, we'll have 1,087, which is plus 306 victims and BFMVs, or up 39% in the Topanga area. We have a program that we're running where we try to eliminate that. I sent out over 100,000 emails directly into the homes so that people would get the message directly. It's not only BFMV, it also leads to ID theft also. Very, very much related subjects. And one of our other goals is to enhance our CPAB membership. We're, in fact, doing that. We have like 29 members right now. We're shooting for 35, but that's just a number. And we have an emergency preparedness committee, and we are actively working on setting up an emergency preparedness program. That's it for me.
Thank you.
So, just in closing, again, I would like to acknowledge the hard work by the Topanga officers. We've done an outstanding job, not only in leading Operations Valley Bureau in citation productivity and in their field interview productivity, and trying to maintain pace with last year's arrests, but even more importantly, with our harm reduction plan, we've been able to reduce our traffic collisions, both preventable and non-preventable. Non-preventable is down 10%, but preventables are down 30%.
Wow.
And we've also been able to reduce our use of force in the area of both non-categorical and categorical. Our non-categorical numbers are, last year to date, we had 35. This year, we've had 30. And then what I'm most impressed with is we have not caused serious injury to anyone in both the use of force and traffic collision area. So that was one of our goals at the beginning of the year. That's something that I've watched very closely, and that was under the leadership of Chief Green, Commander Scott, and Commander Pitcher, who stressed the importance of risk management and harm reduction at the middle of the year. In addition to that, I'm going to quickly address the efforts not only on our CPAB, but with our Crow and Slow, who don't get the due that they really deserve. We've got absolutely one of the most robust wrestling programs for our kids. We have donors that have come on, and Water Buffalo's been great. This year, under the guidance of Captain Ryan and myself, we'll be running the LA Marathon with many of our cadets, 17 cadets. We're training for that right now. We've been running a lot of runs. And, I'm even going to get my butt out there and run the marathon with them. So we'll be out there as well this year. And with that, we're prepared to take any questions you may have for both of us.
I just want to thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for relating it to a change in trend, this uptick in crime, and the idea that what you're doing is contributing to the end of that in your area, and it's worth noting and watching and spreading the word. So again, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. It's appreciated and acknowledged.
Thanks, sir.
I would add one comment also in that the BFMV program, our citizens are the worst. They're our problem in that they continue to leave objects available, visible in their automobiles. And a lot of this stuff is strictly a matter of walking by a car and seeing something and opening the car, busting a window, and going off with it. Our program has been to try to get the people aware of that. Please, we had that old phrase, lock it, hide it, keep it. Well, it is lock it, hide it, keep it, but people just don't pay attention to it. And during this period right now of the holiday season, that's especially important, so that they don't go shopping, bring the packages back, put them in their car, go back, get some more stuff, and the bad guys are out there watching that. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that comment for the record.
You have the new mall that opened in your area, right?
Oh, yes, we do.
And impacts what?
Yes, sir. Well, we've been deploying specifically for that. Chief Green, Commander Scott, and Commander Pitcher loaned us additional resources in order to make sure that we had a smooth opening of that mall. That mall, which, by the way, is going to provide $236 million in direct revenue to the city over the next 5 years.
Many jobs also.
And absolutely many jobs. And we're going to keep it safe. Topanga is going to do whatever it takes to keep that area safe. We're putting in the ice skating rink in the next couple of weeks, so we invite the community down to enjoy the ice skating and the holiday shopping. And we have a deployment and a specific plan that's going to encompass everything from Metropolitan Division to our volunteer mounted unit in the Valley. And they're going to be out and about during the holidays, keeping it safe and making sure that people come out and spend a whole lot of money in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, I hope your CPAB will invite some people from the Westfield community, because they're big supporters of LAPD, and I think it can be helpful for you.
Absolutely. We're bringing people back into the city with the help of CPAB, and we're also going to be deploying our volunteer surveillance team as well to assist us.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you. That was terrific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have 3 comment cards. We have Wayne, Yvonne Michelle Autry, and Ted Hayes.
so nice over there in Topanga, Northwest Valley. Yes, the ice skating rink. That's why I drove down there today. I forgot about that. I had that on my notes. They're going to have an ice skating rink over there in the new Westfield Mall area. It's a very, very important thing to learn how to ice skate, especially for all of the African Americans that live in that area over in Topanga Canyon. Topanga Canyon is one of the largest African American enclaves in Los Angeles City. And as a result, ice skating is a primarily African American activity in many of these areas. So it's good that the police are going to be guarding that ice skating rink against trespassers. Even I would put animal control in there. Sometimes a pit bull just comes running through the parking lot, and you don't want to be ice skating and have a pit bull go onto the rink. You know, that's really, well, it's kind of funny, but it's also deadly. Also, the fact that a couple of white kids shared a toothbrush. My God, a couple of kids were sharing a toothbrush. So, yes, the hygiene police had to be called in immediately. What, 911? Well, there's two white kids over in Topanga sharing a toothbrush. It's not proper hygiene. And 50 cops in a SWAT unit came out to that house over there near Woodland Hills, and they put a stop to that. They went right over and brought each kid a dozen toothbrushes each, free, courtesy of the police commission, free toothbrushes to these kids. That's a good thing. But you forgot the mouthwash, and you forgot the free limousine that comes with it, because when they're done with their toothbrush, they have to be driven by limo over to their ice skating lessons. A very good meeting. Good job.
Yvonne Michelle Autry.
Yes. What I'd like to say primarily is that first, I take, of course, a stance against all crime. And we understand it's the principalities and high places that dictate your actions. It's Illuminati. You're just the pawns in that process. However, we do know that in this New World Ordered society and your movement towards that, you want an all-white society in which you have designated black people, poor people, people of color to be the trash, the scapegoats for your evil, so that you can avoid any retribution. Well, God knows. Repent while you can, confess your sins while you can still be saved. We're all under grace and mercy. Don't commit suicide. You need to tell on the bad cops and things that you see. Do you understand? If you tell on the bad cops, then you don't have a guilty conscience.
Ma'am, you're off topic. This is the item is
well,
4A.
the issue is that I'm against the incrimination of people like myself still thinking for themselves in this process of utilization of CIA test sites, experimental test sites, challenge science projects.
You're still off
and
topic.
the cover, because no, this is not just in Topanga, but this is happening everywhere. On record and speaking in opposition as a citizen, as a constituent of this city, I have a right to speak against it because that is what the money is being used for. And, you know, I hate to say this, but you're a token. You're a light-skinned black man. Okay, you're a token. I'm a fair-skinned black woman. All right? Don't you let them use you. You got to go home. Don't you have a conscience? Pete, you know, he kind of, he spoke towards that. Y'all got to have one black token on y'all council. Does that make you sleep well at night as you make us your sacrificial lambs? So do not use your surveillance or the city's money to incriminate people or put us in the trash. Okay, and if you confess, and you don't have to commit suicide. I'm against the illegal entries of my dwelling, the shots, and the germ warfare used against this white man.
Thank you.
Okay, exposing your tactics.
Out of service. That sign is usually employed for vehicles that are being driven by non-officers going to be repaired or whatever else. But the sign was at the front desk saying, out of service. Another station, they had 30 lights in the ceiling, but only 4 over the front desk. The people who went to that station were sitting in the virtual absolute darkness. At another station, they have a sign-in sheet, and the officer is supposed to indicate what kind of service was provided, 3 of the items were not even covered. I spoke to the watch commander. He said, yeah, that is pretty important. I said, will it be covered next time? Oh, I can't guarantee that. People were sitting in that station for 3.5 hours before they were served. 3.5 hours. Many people, being impatient, left. So I would like to visit your front desk, see what it's like. Evidently, if you say it has to be improved, it was either not substantial to begin with or had gone into decline. I have no idea what. But I would certainly like to know why you paid attention to the fact that your front desk was not functioning on a level you thought was appropriate. So these stations are really alarming. I mean, I don't want to do a tour of all of them, and Topanga is pretty far away from where I live. But I hope that you improve that front desk service because that's the most important thing you can do for the public. Thank you.
There are no other comment cards on this item. I don't have a comment card on this item for you, sir.
No more comment
No
cards?
more comment cards.
Okay. I'll let you comment this time.
Thank you. Prentice Jenkins, City Life newsletter. Yeah. And activist since 1991. I like this slogan, integrity in all we say and do. I wish I'd have had that slogan when I was 10 years old. I could have used that on my mother when she caught me with my hand in her purse trying to steal $5. My hand still in her purse, and she accused me. I would have said, wait a minute, mother. Are you kidding me? There's integrity in all I say and do. There's no way I'm stealing from your purse.
You're off topic. If you want to comment on this item, you're welcome to. I gave you the time, so get back on topic, or I'm going to
I want to know
forfeit the time.
problem solving in the Topanga area. How do you solve the problem of mentally unstable police officers? So are you dealing with that? You know, there are individuals in the community running in to mentally unstable police officers. Now, you know you have them because you heard them in the police station talking about, I'd like to nuke that whole neighborhood. You've all heard those cops. Every cop here has heard one of those cops say that. Guess what? You need to say something about those cops. Because that cop that said that, Henry Solis is sitting in the county jail right now. Cops heard him say, I'd like to blast that whole neighborhood. You know, just take a Uzi to everybody in that neighborhood. Everybody heard Henry Solis say that. Not one cop did anything about it. Henry Solis eventually shot a man to death just because he could. He's got a gun. Remember, you issued him a permit. You issued Henry Solis, LAPD officer Henry Solis' permit. He used it to follow a man out of a bar that he did not know. Take his gun out, blast the man to death. Now he's in the county jail. So the question is, what are you doing in the Topanga area to deal with mentally unstable cops?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. There are no other cards on this item. We're now on item number 4B, Inspector General's report dated November 12, 2015, relative to
Thank you very much.
analysis
Thank you very much for
of
your work and your
employees
patience.
currently on injured on-duty leave as set forth.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Alex Bustamante. At the table in front of you from my office is Assistant Inspector General Kevin Rogan. What you have before you is our attempts to do a limited scope review focusing on employees currently on IOD to try to identify trends or issues or problems with the process. What we learned during our review was that IOD, the tracking that the department done, is broken into kind of two tiers. The first tier is done at the division level, where SIC and IOD coordinators track individuals that are on IOD for 6 months or less, and then that the remainder, those in excess of 6 months, are tracked by the department. And what we learned when we try to look at the information for officers that are on the IOD status past the 6-month period is that we had difficulty in getting access to the information, and that there was a lot of noise in the data with information from officers that were no longer in the department for one reason or another, and it was difficult to see who was on status and for what period of time. What our recommendations were basically was to try to create a process to enable the department to track and identify people in IOD status, not only in terms of time that they are in that status, but maybe looking for other commonalities that the department can use for risk management purposes, or also to potentially identify issues with people in that status. And both myself and Assistant Inspector General Kevin Rogan are here for any questions you might have.
Go ahead.
Sure. I do have a few questions to start. Did the department respond to your recommendations?
We provided that, and I'll have Kevin address that issue.
Okay.
We were in discussion with the department while we were obtaining the information. We didn't get a response specifically to the last draft of the report, but the collection of data took probably 3 or 4 months, and we were in contact with the department during that course of time.
Chief, is there somebody who can... I'm interested in understanding the department's response at this point regarding the system, which seems to be in great difficulty. And there's audit from the city auditor, and now this. And the problems identified are basic. We don't know how many people are on IOD. So I would like to hear from the department about its substantive response to the findings of the audit.
Of course, Commissioner. I would start just by saying that the department acknowledges that there were some deficiencies in the manner with which we display the information. I will say that we are aware of how to retrieve that information. It exists in various different databases. The idea, however, is to pull that information together so it's more in a more palatable form for reporting procedure purposes. Francois Gardier is here today to acknowledge some of the areas where we need to improve. And to identify some of the ways that we can make this information more readily available.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Francois Gardier. I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer of Administrative Services Bureau. We agree with the recommendations that the Inspector General made. We have been working towards consolidating all of our systems into one database where we can get the information readily and we don't have to pull from a lot of different resources. So we agree 100% with the recommendations, and in fact, we've been working towards that even before the audit was started.
Do you have a sense of when you're likely to be able to report that you've made good progress on that so that you can answer these basic questions about?
Well, let me clarify one thing, is that we can, in fact, give information on any given day on how many people are IOD. We can do that. The issue is we have to pull it from several different places, and in some cases it's a little bit behind. So we do have the capability, but it's very onerous for us to do it, but we can do it on any given day. What we're doing is we're trying to work to make sure we have one centrally located database, which is exactly what the IG recommended, and we agree, and we've been working towards that even before the audit started. So I could give you an update. We're imagining that it might take about a year to get all this done because there's so many systems, and the systems are not owned by us. For instance, the controller's office owns Pacer. Personnel department owns IVOS. DPS we own. So there's different systems that we need to pull from that are not owned by us. So what we're trying to do is collaborate, get all those systems together, and we are working with one of my colleagues in Administrative Services Bureau to do that. And we've been actively working on that.
Okay, I appreciate that. I discouraged here. We're talking about a year out. I mean, my question then really is back to the chief. If I understand correctly, the original audit showed that 60% of all LAPD officers filed at least one claim over a recent 3-year period. That seems high to me. I would be interested in hearing from the department about how this compares with other big city departments and if it's out of line, what the department is doing, not only on the data end, but on the substantive end.
Thank you, Commissioner. I believe we could probably have something for the Commission in terms of a report to answer those questions in a period of about 45 days. That gives us an opportunity to analyze the various systems and come up with a response that's more indicative of your concerns.
And we can also, Chief, we can provide a report on the progress that we have made over the last few months.
Yeah, and
the year is at the outside. I don't want to say 6 months or 9 months and then not be able to produce.
I'd like to add to that, if someone's going to play the system or abuse the system, how are you going to catch them? What are your safeguards? What are the expectations? How do those go system-wide? Because it's one thing to collect the data, and so the data's going to come in, and we'll wait a year or whatever. But the thing is, what are we doing to discourage abuse of that system?
Right. We have two sections within Personnel Division. One of them is the Return to Work section. One of them is the Medical Liaison section. Both of those sections have analysts that are very experienced in reading and processing the various doctor's notes and other paperwork that comes through. And as a matter of fact, our analysts have caught quite a few documents that didn't seem like they were on the up and up. And when we see those, we report those to our Professional Standards Bureau, SOD. Thank you very much. And they may or may not, depending on what they see, decide to surveil individuals or look into the issue further. So we do have analysts that are very experienced in that, and they do report any suspicious paperwork to SOD.
And as a part of that, do you believe that there, as you look at this over the next year and gather the statistics, are there other things that you'll be putting in place to further discourage? It's very costly.
Yes, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Choi from Risk Management. Yeah. However, I do want to clarify that the information you mentioned that we'll gather it in a year, yeah. We have the information now. Mm-hmm. It's just in several different places, and we can't abstract it.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, sir.
Just an update, what we're doing for workers' injury or workers' comp stuff. Consistent with the controller's audit that we had, we're enhancing our supervisor investigations. So it's not to deter, it's twofold. So we're going to require that if somebody comes and claims an IOD injury, that we have an on-scene investigation. The supervisor can't just sit there at the desk and fill out paperwork. Somebody has to go to the location, identify if there's any witnesses, any audio, video, just like we would do in a use of force investigation or traffic collision with an officer involved. So we're going to enhance that aspect of it. What that's going to do is it's going to provide our third-party administrators more information to make a quicker determination to either accept a claim or deny a claim. So if you're righteously injured, you get service faster, but if you're not, it gets denied quicker. Okay. And then another aspect of that is if somebody decides that they want to do jiu-jitsu on the weekend, but on Monday go to the gym at the office and claim they have a shoulder injury, that's going to deter them because they're going to know that there's going to be an on-scene investigation. So that's one thing we're going to do to address some of this fraud, which I believe is fairly small. I mean, I can't support it, but that's my belief. Another thing that we're going to do, other than supervisor investigation, is the my thought just escaped me.
Take your time.
The Risk Management Committee?
No, no, I know. I'm here. Yeah,
don't worry about it.
But there's several things that we are doing to more thoroughly document these accidents. I don't have my notes in front of me. This is the last minute thing. I apologize.
Or maybe could I ask some questions for the Inspector General's office or make a suggestion? Or will the Inspector General's office, when you can resume your audit, then once the data is accessible, will you also be evaluating some of the analytics that you were speaking of earlier?
Definitely, Commissioner. I mean, we'll do that. I think one of the things that we were hoping to do is once you have a spreadsheet or you have everything kind of co-located in a central system, you can start cross-referencing things to start looking for areas that you might want to pay attention to. For example, if you have injuries that are happening in a particular division and they all be of the same category, that may raise one set of issues. If you have people going to the same doctors and same attorneys and having the same kind of injuries and are on IOD for a long time, that might be a completely different set of issues that you might identify. So we'll work with the department and try to figure out a way that makes sense to move this process forward. And I think we'll be from time to time looking at the information and seeing if we can come up with some items that at least are raising red flags to us, and then work in conjunction with the department to try to address some of these things.
You remembered what he forgot.
I do. I apologize. So one other thing that we're pushing out is a letter to the physician. So when an employee goes to a physician for treatment and we get a letter back saying that the employee is TTD, totally temporarily disabled, we will contact or send a letter to the physician letting them know that they are temporary modified light duty or administrative type positions, because a lot of these physicians think, or they hear, that, hey, I have to get in a black and white and drive around all day. Well, you can't do that, but they're not aware that they can have a desk job or in the kit room and hand out equipment, those type of things. So that has proven in the past to be effective. We just want to make sure as a department we do it consistently and that we don't have a Lone Ranger doing something they shouldn't be doing with the doctor. So that's one other thing. Additionally, we're going to be putting risk management coordinators at every division. Those risk management coordinators are responsible for 4 areas, but worker injury, workers' comp is one of those areas, and they are charged with looking at the trends and patterns within that division and taking immediate action to curb any of those accidents that are deemed to be preventable. So those are some things that we're doing as an organization to try and mitigate or prevent injuries from occurring.
Can you clarify what information we're going to have in 45 days?
In 45 days, we will provide an update on how far we've gotten in the process of consolidating all the different systems so we can have one central location. So we'll let you know what our activities have been and how far we've come.
And is the complication in doing that based on you have to design a program that will continue to pull from all of these different databases?
Well, there's that. The fact
this
that
seems like a really long time. How long you've been working on it? And we're talking about a year from today.
No, it's ever since, I would say, the past 5 to 6 months.
So is this an 18-month-long process, or will this be ready in 6 months?
No, we're still, I'm thinking a year out. And the reason is there's a lot of there's different departments involved that own the different systems, like I've said, and there's different divisions and different sections involved. We have to get those people involved. We have to bring the analyst that is responsible for each duty in to test the system, see what we need. It's a long process if we want to do it right, because we've been doing it this way for years and years and years, and to try to get everything consolidated into one is just not a simple feat.
And is that consolidation necessary to deliver the data that is necessary? Is that consolidation necessary to deliver the relevant data to the Inspector General's office for the Inspector General's office to continue the investigation that they had to prematurely?
No, it's not necessary. We can provide, like I said, we have the ability to provide that information on any given day. It's just onerous, and we have to pull it from several different places. Now, for efficiency, and again, we agree with the Inspector General, we would rather have a centrally located database.
Matt, my hope is in 45 days, in addition to the specifics about the data, that we get a substantive response from the department about the management question. That is, I understand at any given day they can, with some work, provide information to the Inspector General. I don't really think that, I understand why that's the issue in the sense of trying to figure it out, but it seems to me the issue is on a regular basis, shouldn't the department be managing this IOD system? And so that when the Inspector General looks at it, we don't get a report like this. And so my hope is, based on what the Chief said, is that in addition to hearing about the progress on the data, we'll actually get a substantive response from the department to the recommendations, with a discussion about how it is or will be managing the program, how it compares with what other big cities do, and that the Inspector General and the department come back to us together on this. If there's disagreement, that's okay. Prefer agreement, but it would be helpful, I think, when you come back, department, if you have clearly been intersecting with the Inspector General on this, and Inspector General, if you've clearly been communicating with the department on this, so that we get a clear sense of where this is going to go.
Commissioner, in 45 days, you can be assured that the department will come back with a degree of clarity, just to make certain that not only the questions are answered, but also to give you a sense of satisfaction and confidence that the department is working very closely with the Inspector General's office as well. You should also know that, and I believe you are, that in our regular weekly ComStat sessions, this issue, not with any specificity as it relates to individuals, but we are constantly looking at and evaluating issues involving SIC and IOD. Those questions are asked and answered, again, not in terms of individuals for HEPA issues, but we pay very, very close attention to abuses and finding ways that we can recode and recalibrate the question of employee wellness. So we'll have that report and we'll have those answers.
And Commissioner, from the IG's perspective, we have on this issue. We have a solid working relationship. I don't think there's going to be any problem working with the department at all. I know Kevin has been working with Francois, and it's been a very fruitful relationship, notwithstanding the issue with centralizing some of the data. So yeah, I'm confident from our end, too, that in 45 days we'll easily have something that we can present where we're kind of in lockstep on what needs to be happening with some reasonable common sense solutions.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Thank you.
When you consolidate this information from all these different departments, is it going to require, or are you looking at a program, a new program, or do we have a program that will accommodate all of that information? You don't have to answer it now. And the other part of it is the IT part. Do we have in our budget? Because I know it's expensive. I run an organization, and all our information is all over the place. So if I could have some of that information, you don't have to respond to that.
We will provide that. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions?
I'm ready to make a motion once we're hear from the public
Sure.
on this matter.
Do we have any comment cards?
Yes, we do. We have two. We have the Red Chief Hunt and Mr. Ted Hayes.
That's it. We solve problems. Okay.
Mr. Jenkins, you have one on 4C.
All right.
Mr. Hunt?
We're on 4B.
Mr. Hunt, please.
Mr. Hunt, go ahead.
Okay, everything's cool. By listening to all of you guys, I think this thing is so convoluted that nobody really has a true understanding on what's going on here. And when you don't really have a true understanding on what's going on, we got too many systems located here, there, and everywhere, that the problem is a lot deeper than just a physician's report or things like that. I think after listening to everybody, I think that this should be resourced out, and you guys should go out and resource somebody to handle that with true data. I don't think that none of these guys are competent right now to really understand what's going on. I think you guys hire outsource to figure this out and then come back with true stats to this, because it's my understanding that from reading LA Times that you guys stats and a lot of you guys reports are false. So at this level, I want to ask this, and being the Red Chief Hunt and at a civil level, that this particular issue be handled, or you guys outsource it to a private company so we can get some true data and some true stats on it. And that's the best thing because it's too convoluted. And when you got everybody asking questions and about systems that can't get done in a year or a year and a half, then it should be outsourced. So please take good advice and hire somebody outside the company to do this for you guys. Thank you, the Red Chief Hunt.
Thank you.
Ted Hayes.
This is astounding. I mean, I read this, I heard some of what you had to say. It seems incredible that this department existed all of these years and they cannot track OIG, workers' compensation. Who's responsible for this? That person, no matter what his level of employment might be, should be fired. 60% of the officers have filed claims. Now, one of the things associated with this is the fact that we need to know how these people claim they were injured. I said people because these are not officers who make fraudulent or malingering claims. We had a video showing a foot pursuit and a takedown on a grassy field. Actually, it was a park. Foot pursuits and takedowns always result in injuries to the officers, their knees, their elbows, and whatever. So also coupled with the injuries, how do they occur? Is it use of force activity, foot pursuit, takedown activity? How do these injuries occur? Because if you no doubt noticed, military personnel have knee pads and elbow pads. But anyway, I looked at this and I read it, and it simply is incredible that at this stage of the LAPD's life, these portions of information are not covered. You can't answer any of these questions by the controller. So I don't know how you commissioners think about this, but this is outstandingly ridiculous situation for the department to be in, not being able to identify this considered a level of claims that are provided.
And we have no other comment cards on this item.
We have no comment cards.
Light a card.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move we approve item 4B with the instruction to the department to report back in 60 days. I say 60 days instead of 45 because of the holidays. And I think realistically, 60 days makes sense. That targets January 19 of 16. And the report back include, among other things, report on the progress on the data issues we've talked about, substantive response from the department about the nature of the IOD issues, how the department plans to manage that better, and comparative data with respect to other large city police departments, and that the Inspector General be included in this process so that we get, we hope, a consolidated and coordinated report back.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We're now on item 4C, Inspector General's report dated November 12, 2015, relative to the review of the mental evaluation unit.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, at the table in front of you is Assistant Inspector General Kevin Rogan. His office, his section within my office, actually did a review of the mental evaluation unit. In 2014, Communications Division received and dispatched patrol officers to over 38,000 calls involving possible mentally ill persons. I just wanted to put that in perspective, the total number of calls received by the department. Over that, in 2014, that same time period, there were approximately 4 million calls for service received by the department. About 790,000 were actually dispatched to officers for service, and less than 5% of that resulted in that number that I just given you, about 38,000. And then break it down even further, the amount within that 38,000 where there was actually a SMART team that responded was approximately 5,000 of that number. So I thought it was important to put a little bit of that into perspective. The patrol officers, as our report noted, are the first responders to all these calls. The SMART teams do not act as first responders. They only come in after the situation has been adequately stabilized for them to come into.
The patrol officers are going to respond unassisted in that 38,000 calls 65% of the time. The other 35% of the time, the officers are contacting the MEU's triage desk, and they're availing themselves of some of the resources and services provided by that team. Over 80% of the time that SMART teams actually do respond, it usually results in hospitalization of the individual. We have also identified the MEU's training detail provides instruction to the department specialized in the area of mental health, and it's a 36-hour course, and we believe to date it's about 250 department officers that have gone through that training. We recommend the department ensure that all sworn personnel complete the post-mandated training, and we're here for any questions that you might have.
Were your statistics 1 year? Can you give me the 4,700,000? What was that period?
It's 1 year.
It's 1 year. It's 4,240,560 compared to 2013, which was 3,968,470.
That can reflect multiple calls on the same incident, sure. Though, correct? Still a lot of calls.
I have questions, I think, for the department in two areas. One is, as I read the report, it seemed I understand that the department's asking for additional staffing to respond to the volume of these calls, and the Inspector General supporting that certainly makes sense to me. I just wanted to ask you for a sense of where that is in the process. I know that that's a complicated process, but if you could tell us how likely you think that is to happen, when it's likely to happen, whether you're likely to get what you think you need, I would appreciate that.
Yes. And is the request in the current budget?
Okay.
So
new budget.
It's in the new budget.
The 2016-2017 budget.
Which means
which hasn't been approved yet.
Which hasn't been approved yet, but would be beginning. When would you actually be able to have these additional staff?
Okay. Mr. President, members of the Commission, and Chief Paysinger, my name's John Romero. I'm the today and for this purpose, I'm the acting commanding officer of Detective Support and Vice Division.
Congratulations. Happy day.
I have a subject matter expert who can describe the path forward for staffing. So allow me to introduce Lieutenant Bixler.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. And Chief. Lieutenant Brian Bixler. I'm the officer in charge of Crisis Response Support Section, which houses the Mental Evaluation Unit. We're actually moving forward. We've received commitments from both the county family and our LAPD family to move forward with the expansion of the Mental Evaluation Unit, which will effectively double our ability to handle calls. We currently handle 35% of all calls that are considered crisis calls for service. Those are verified mental illness calls where somebody calls 911 resulting in arrest or a hold. And hopefully with that doubling, we'd like to be around 70% of allowing our officers. That would return patrol officers into patrol. Moving forward, we've received our commitment from the county that they will begin bringing in clinicians, the 16 clinicians that they have committed to us in about February. We've also received commitments from the LAPD that we'll be able to get the bodies to resource those clinicians and to double our numbers by starting in February moving forward.
Great. Thank you. I'm sure it doesn't need to be said, but I'll say it. There's a big discussion going on about across the country and here about interactions between the police and residents and police uses of force. And clearly the mental health issue is a very significant part of that. And so the reason I ask this is to make sure we're hearing about the progress that you're making, and to the extent you're not able to make the progress you need to make, that you let us know that so that we can know it and try to help with that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Then I have a couple questions about the training for the department. If I understand right, most of the officers who should receive the post-training, which is a 2-hour training, have received that. There are roughly 500 who have not received that. If that's accurate, can you tell me sort of what your sense of the timing is on those remaining 500?
Sir, this is the area where we hit some friction on the department. We have about 98% of the department trained. And so the people that are most likely to encounter the mentally ill are trained. And now we're into the area where we have people on authorized leave, on bonding leave, and sick, and reserves. And
That's a
so,
challenge.
right, and the order has gone out to the area commanding officers to accomplish that training. But this is the friction point where it goes much more slowly.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just on that point, how much training in aggregate do those officers have? How many hours?
To what are you referring? Which just a general officer, or
on the mental health training that we're just referring to?
The one we were just referring to is actually a 2-hour mental health update that's put out by California Post. It was a DVD training that was done by the area, so that's just a 2-hour refresher for patrol officers.
And but part of where I was going, I mean, I appreciate that and understand that, and I'm glad the percentage is as small as it is. There's this 36-hour training, and if I understand the report right, so far only 251 of the 3,570 officers assigned to patrol and specialized units have received that training. And even with the increased training that you identify and plan for 2016, at the end of 2016, more than a year from now, fewer than 1,000 of the 3,570 will have received the 36-hour training. So again, if that's correct, can you help us understand how to improve that? If that's not correct, please correct me.
So we are aiming at the officers who are most likely to encounter the mentally ill. And so we're looking at the 367 officers are coming back at the 11-month period, that the officers that are about to get off of probation. About 234 will be in-service officers, and that is a total of 601 in 24 classes in 2016. And we're limited in the number of people that can be in those classes because of the nature, the hands-on nature, and the role-playing and the stations that they have to go to. This is not a lecture format where we can put 700 people in an auditorium.
And how many officers are in the mental health training detail? How many officers are equipped to conduct these trainings? And is the limitation within that detail part of the problem in not being able to roll out a higher number of trained officers?
We actually have currently 3 police officer 2s and 2 detectives assigned to that training detail. They're the facilitators, but our actual instructors are from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Autism Society of Los Angeles, the Department of Mental Health. So that lies where we can come into some problems with bringing in more instructors. But other than that, we keep the class size small simply because it is facilitated discussion, it is role play, and if we grow those numbers any larger, it becomes less effective.
Sure. I mean, the nature of the class, what calls for the small class size, I understand. Okay. But if there's a way to increase capacity among the trainers in order to conduct more trainings and roll out additional trained officers, that seems like the optimal plan, because there's a similar problem just with the crisis intervention training, that from 2004 to 2012, about 800 sworn personnel were able to engage in the 40-hour crisis intervention training. So there seems to be a similar limitation there. Right?
There is, and we're doing this every 2 weeks, and by having more instructors, we wouldn't be able to facilitate more classes simply because of, again, it's not just our instructors. We actually go out and visit sites, Court 95, Division 95 of the Mental Health Court. We visit other locations, and they've graciously let us come in. We were doing 12 deliveries a year. We're now doing 24, and that was a strain on these locations we go to. And these are the locations that the officers are going to interact in. So we're kind of at that point where to just get more instructors wouldn't allow us to give more deliveries because there's so many other pieces to this class.
So from your perspectives, what would be the optimal number of officers trained in both the CIT training as well as the MHIT course?
The CIT training has been decertified. That's no longer in existence.
And then the
MHIT is the new course.
And what would be the optimal?
The optimum number is, I think, where we're at. The 24 deliveries as we look next year will allow us to train those students or those officers at the 11-month period, as well as to bring in those officers who are out there in the field. And I think that's where we're going to get the best result and the best training we can at that number.
In the field, do we make an effort to make sure that the officers that have the more extensive training are responding to those calls that are more likely to involve someone suspected of being mentally ill?
We don't have anything in place. The CIT model would mean that you'd have 20% of your patrol force, and they would be identified as such and respond to those calls as they can. That doesn't exist here. One thing we have just rolled out, actually just today, is an MHIT pin that identifies officers who have been trained as such. It's this pin here on my uniform that identifies that person as a mental health or being trained in dealing with persons with mental health. So we're going to let our watch commanders know, our patrol commanding officers, that those officers will be identified that way so they can have understanding in their command who is trained and will be dispatched.
Chief, I think that's just something we should look into, because obviously, even with the doubling of the number of smart teams, which is I think everybody is supportive of, they're obviously not first responders, and there's still a limited amount of those resources. So in these situations where we know or suspect that someone has a mental health issue that's contributing to what's going on, if we could have officers that are trained in that, or have the greater level of training, to the extent available, we should have something built into our system to push that out.
Thank you, Commissioner. As a matter of fact, I think we probably already do have that capacity and capability within Communications Division. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'll have a conversation with Chief Moore and Communications Division, because I think there's a way to pre-identify officers who have that training and provide that information to Communications so they can actually upload it into the system during the log-on period when an officer starts his or her watch. So there's some pre-designation at the start of watch, so Communications actually knows or can identify the personnel who have had the training. In those occasions where the deployment permits, they could actually direct those officers to those calls where we know that there's an issue with a person with mental illness.
I'm sorry.
Where I know the city and the county are rolling out initiatives on homeless emergency. Are we at the table, and are we looking at more resources from that?
Yes, I'll let Lieutenant Bixler speak to the numbers, but the mental health clinicians are county employees, and the growth that we're going to experience there are new hires from the county, and there's also, we're participating in the county training with our
so
with our
you do
trainers.
actually go with the county and train. Are your trainings open for commissioners to come and visit?
Absolutely, anytime. There's one running right now across the street, and so we run them every 2 weeks, and at any time, any of you are more than welcome to come and join us.
So in 2016, it looks like there will be about 700 more officers trained, according to these numbers. The 25 class sizes of 25 and 24 trainings that can take place in 2016. We're
actually scheduled for 601, and it goes on the post fiscal year.
Okay.
And they have us at 24 deliveries per fiscal year.
Okay.
So we have 601 students based on our calendar for for 2016.
Mm-hmm. And from the Inspector General's office, can you share any thoughts based on maybe a comparison with other large cities and how they conduct these trainings and number of trained officers with the heightened MHIT training, whether we're comparable or if there's any way to roll out additional officers at a higher rate, that are trained in this?
I don't have any experience with the rollout portion, and I understand the complexity that so many players are involved. That's much more complex. But part of our review includes that we do review the literature, including stuff in the International Association of Chiefs of Police magazines and on their website and the conferences about this issue, collaboratives between mental health clinicians and police officers. And this program is as dynamic as any program that I've seen published in any of the literature. Many people are trying different aspects of this, of pairing clinicians and officers, but the numbers, if the department is successful in doubling their current output, is really going to be something that probably nobody else features. I have not seen New York talk about it, I've not seen Chicago talk about it, and other agencies are doing it at a much smaller scale.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm prepared to make a motion after we hear from the public on this important matter.
Yes, we have 4 public comment cards. We have Prentice Jenkins, Yvonne Michelle Autry, Ted Hayes, and Wayne.
Prentice Jenkins, City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. This is the mental evaluation unit. But has the mental evaluation unit been mentally evaluated? Did anyone do that? I cracked him up. Yeah.
That ain't why I'm laughing.
It is. That's why you're laughing. The question is, why are you laughing? Huh. Sad. Did you mentally evaluate your mental evaluation unit? You got cops killing people. You say you don't know why. But what if that cop is mentally ill and you put him on the mental evaluation unit, but you didn't evaluate him? Wait. Turn their heads. I don't want to hear it. 1992. The mayor's office turned their heads when we went in with a plan to create jobs. They turned their heads then, just like you did. They turned their heads in February of 1992. In April of 1992, this city burned. They wasn't turning their heads then. None of them. All the people that look like you said, why did the city burn? I knew why it burned. You didn't. None of you. You didn't do anything. You didn't know because you turned your heads. And the city burned. 58 people dead. Billions of dollars in property burned up. 58 people killed because all people like you turned your heads. All the cops turned their heads. It's not funny. You need to stop laughing. It's going to happen again. You just turn your head when it does.
I just appreciate Brother Prentice and all of my colleagues, Brother Hamid Khan, all of my colleagues' comments today. I'd like to speak on the subject of misdiagnosing people as bipolar, manic depressive, schizophrenic, psychotic, paranoid, and delusional in order to cover up and to justify not only the civil rights violations, human rights violations perpetrated against these people, myself included, and the CCHR, or the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, is continually exposing these false misdiagnoses, again, to cover up government plots to continue to figure out how to control all the people's minds, notwithstanding the implants and microchips that are being used, subliminal programming, shots, sprays, germ warfare. Yeah, I'm one little rabbit that got out of the box. Speaking as a black female who is not in service, not in use, I'm not your box hot lunch for your white female to use. I'm not your chocolate chip cookie. Again, I'm not food, even not for your vampires and your cannibals. You know what I'm talking about, because the neo-Nazis have been involved in this type of unfortunate usage of our supreme energy sources for many years in your secret societal rituals. We are not your organ donors. And just for the record, again, for all you police officers, instead of incriminating and lynching witnesses and whistleblowers like Christopher Donner, why not try a novel idea of actually exposing the bad cops that you witnessed perpetrating? Prostitution, murders, abuse of civil rights violation, police profiling, whether it's racial or economic. Why don't you try a novel idea of serving and protecting and being peace officers, notwithstanding threats? God sees everything you do. You cannot escape retribution by scapegoating and framing me or anybody else that lives to talk about it, or labeling us bipolar, manic depressive, schizophrenic, psychotic, paranoid, and delusional. Okay, or taking our children, everything else that you try to take from us, our dignity, our pride, our self-respect. You will not use me, and I will continue to expose you.
Ted Hayes.
there is some reason to evaluate the evaluators. If an officer runs into a situation there's a murder-suicide and the children have been killed also, I would consider that to be a highly stressful and traumatic situation. Can the officer demand consultation and therapy, or is it mandatory? I believe it should be mandatory. We do that when there's a mass shooting someplace at a school. All those children, all of them, are given consultation and therapy because of that. Officers are not cookie cutters. They're type A's, type B's, and even type C's. Type A's like me, I will never come down with PTSD despite what I've encountered in service. Others can't do that. And officers should have some kind of consultation and therapy when they encounter these events that are off the scale as far as the horrendousness and horror of it all. It's not like you see on TV. You walk in on these things and walk away. No, it doesn't happen that way very often. But we need to know whether that's part of the workers' compensation. Officer encounters something so stressful, so traumatic, that he simply can't return to work. Might want to turn in the badge. So we need to know that aspect also. What you've been hearing here about PTSD is something that deserves some kind of consideration. So evaluate the evaluators in some sense, because this job of being a police officer is not an easy job for a normal human being to remain normal. Thank you.
Wayne?
Yes, on my visit last Tuesday to your little jail, there was a black woman in there, and she was called a 5150. 5150 under the penal code allows somebody to be held up to 3 days against their will if it is reasonably certain they're a danger to others or themselves. These are just semantics. You take somebody into custody and you push on them. You demean them. You engage them in verbal combat. You create a degrading and inhumane situation. A person will snap. And you're doing that in your jails, because I witnessed this for 13 and a half hours on Tuesday and early Wednesday last week. I went to 3 of your facilities that you dragged me to. Well, I was just because I wanted to speak at this meeting last week. So I saw how you took a black woman, stuck her in a cage, and she was in there banging and yelling. Of course, there's a bulletproof glass that she's in, so you can't hear much about what she's saying. There was another man, a transgender person. They whipped her wig off, his wig off, and then chained him by one handcuff to a bench, and he kept screaming, "Give me my wig back, you bastards, you niggers, you bastards." And then the cops are all sitting there laughing and saying, "Oh, fuck you, no, fuck you, oh, fuck you, no, fuck you." And that's exactly the whole conversation for the first 2 hours of my booking and my detention. That's what you do. That's what you do. You dehumanize and you create a degrading and inhumane treatment of suspects with the acquiescence and consent of this commission. That is called a violation of Article 3 of the United Nations against torture. The Convention Against Torture is being violated by your department, and you need to be arrested for that.
There are no other comment cards on this item.
Mr. President, I move approval of item 4C with the instruction to the department to report back to us quarterly on 2 aspects of this. 1, the progress being made in training and in staffing, and 2, the matter that Chief referred to, the ability to identify those officers who are trained for use in assignments and patrol.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You are now on item 4D, Department's report dated November 10, 2015, relative to body-worn video deployment and implementation costs.
Thank you.
And personnel services agreement with Taser International, Inc. for body-worn video and conducted electrical weapons for the Los Angeles Police Department.
Hello.
Hi.
for officially at good afternoon. Maggie Goodrich,
Yes.
CIO for LA PD. I'm joined by Sergeant Dan Gomez with the Tactical Technology section under my bureau. So the report before you does two things. One is it lays out all of the costs involved in the larger deployment of body cameras. So as you're all well aware, the mayor committed to procuring and deploying a total of 7,000 cameras. That includes the 860 that were donated by the Police Foundation earlier this year and deployed in August and September of this year. So this is the explanation of all of the costs related to the total deployment of another 6,200 or thereabouts. The mayor's asked that we complete that deployment by the end of 2016. So the plan is to get moving as quickly as possible on all the networking work at the stations, the infrastructure work, which is really what takes most of that lead time. And then also what is attached is the proposed agreement with TASER for the purchase of the body cameras as well. All of the other work that's described, infrastructure work, mobile devices, connectivity, all of that will be handled under existing city contracts, but the agreement with TASER is the new agreement that needs to be approved for the purchase of those cameras. Included in that purchase, it's actually a 5-year agreement with TASER. Included in that is unlimited data storage for all of the body cameras, plus up to 300 terabytes of additional storage in evidence.com for any other digital media we'd like to store, such as photographs or other taped interviews, that type of thing, which will be of a big benefit to the department as well. It also includes upgraded cameras at years 2.5 and year 5, so it's really 3 cameras per officer over the life of the agreement. And that will allow us to upgrade as the technology advances. As you're all well aware, the technology is evolving very quickly. So the sergeant and I were both able to attend the International Associations of Chief of Police conference a few weeks ago. Spent quite a bit of time looking at all of the body camera vendors yet again that were there, analyzing the market, looking at the various solutions that were available. And we're confident we've got probably the most mature solution out there on the market, and we're just looking forward to getting going.
So we'll have new cameras at year 2.5 and year 5? Correct. And how long do you think the life of those cameras will be, the ones in year 5, how long will this take us through? So do you think
in year
you project
5,
about 2.5 years?
Yes, I mean my expectation would be probably in year 5, then we would enter into some sort of new agreement, take a look at the market again to determine if we're going to stay with TASER or go with somebody else. But those would probably last another 2.5 years, and then we would decide if we're entering into another agreement with either the same vendor or a different vendor.
Do we also have the most favored nations clause in here?
Yes.
Okay. In other words, if another department, if they ever lower their price,
yes,
we retroactively go back to the lowest price.
Correct.
Good. Great job.
I have a couple questions. One has to do with the bidding process, the selection, and I may be completely misunderstanding this, so please educate me. My recollection is that when the original decision was made to go with TASER, that went around the city's regular competitive bidding process because, thanks to President Soboroff, the money had been raised privately and came to us through the foundation. And now that we're expanding that, are we using the full city competitive bidding process, or are we going around that again because we already have the contract to begin with TASER?
So we are still following the city procurement rules. We're not going around that in any way because we're already engaged with TASER. The initial agreement with TASER with the donation was an agreement between the Police Foundation and TASER directly, right, with the cameras being donated to the city. At this point, we explored a couple different avenues for procurement, and what we found was that Kern County had just released an RFP with specifications that were almost identical to the specifications that we had put together for a procurement, and so the city attorney approved the use of that bidding process, and that's very common in the city. We often they refer to it as piggybacking on either a procurement or a contract. Often we'll either piggyback on an RFP process itself and go with the selection that another governmental agency made through a procurement process, or in other times we'll take the contract that other government agency entered into and piggyback on the contract itself.
And the fact that we were already using the TASER equipment, does that effectively preclude any other provider of being able to be responsive to the bid, to the RFP?
No. So the bid that, in this instance, Kern County went through that bidding process. That was open to any vendors who wanted to submit, obviously. It's open to the entire market. And if we had identified a contract with another government agency, for example, with another vendor, and wanted to use that instead, we have that option as well. As long as the city attorney is able to evaluate the procurement that another government agency did and validate that it did follow our procurement rules as well in terms of making sure it was an open competitive bid, that the specifications and the scope of work are substantially similar to what we're looking for, then they'll allow us to use that other government agency's bidding process.
Thank you. And my other is embedded in this, of course, are the policies that the Commission approved related to the use and various other aspects of the on-body cameras. Some of those policies with which I disagree. And I don't mean to have a discussion of that again today, but I just want to confirm with the Department and the Inspector General that now that you're rolling this out, we're going to be hearing back, I believe it was 6 months from the beginning, on the experience in doing that. And at that point, I think it will be appropriate to talk about whether the policies are appropriate or not and how they're working. And so I just would like some confirmation that we're on track for that.
We are. We should have first audit out in, I think, about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And that'll just be a preliminary look at what's working, if there's additional training that's required. And then we will have, after that, a series of audits looking at both digital in-car video and body-worn video for a whole host of issues. And we'll be routinely reporting back to the Commission on those matters.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to it.
Question. On page 2 of the report, Maggie and Dan, you say, I'm just going to read it. As of November 8, 2015, a total of 64,000 plus videos have been recorded, totaling a whole bunch, et cetera, et cetera. When we do get the report in 6 months, as far as how the results are going, I mean, I hear from different, I probably talked to, you've got 860 officers that have the cameras. I probably talked to 100 of them, and you hear different things. The thing that I hear most is how things have de-escalated because the cameras, people would say, I'm recording, and all of a sudden the situation changes dramatically. There's a new study that came out at Harvard Law and Cambridge linking the use of cameras to a substantial decrease in use of force. And I just want to let you know that that is one of the things that I'm going to be looking at really carefully at that 6-month period, because some communities have had up to a 60% reduction in use of force, much smaller agencies. And my question for today is that one of the things that we're monitoring? Because right now you have 860 cameras out. Are we monitoring before and after uses of force?
Yes. So under the grant award that we received from the National Institute of Justice to evaluate the impact of the body cameras, that is part of that evaluation. Good. So studying the impact of the cameras will include a look at complaints against officers, uses of force, and other things, and particularly that de-escalation that you talked about.
And Commissioner Soboroff, I've been in discussions with Commissioner Johnson, who has a similar interest in doing the same thing and examining what impact body-worn videos has on the year
yearly numbers, and do we see declines in complaints and other such areas? So we'll be looking at that as
I
well.
just don't want in 6 months say, how come we didn't measure
Oh,
this?
we'll be looking
because
at
we're
it.
expecting that to be measured. Yeah.
Everybody's looking at it. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
We do have comment cards.
Oh, sorry.
We have 7 comment cards. We have Prentice Jenkins, Yvonne Michelle Autry, Tud Hayes, Jamie Garcia, Hamid Khan, Jerry Dietrich, and Wayne.
Prentice Jenkins, City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. Did I hear there's a sweetheart deal here? So, are you financially invested in this? Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest? I know you can't answer me, but it's
It would
actually...
be if I was, but I'm not.
No, okay.
Okay?
Right.
Move on.
Yeah, publicly. Okay, so we got body cameras that the public is not going to get to review, right? These folks, you raise money to get these body cameras. You're not invested, but you raise money. Apparently, what this young lady said, you raise money to get the body cameras. Is that accurate? Based on what she said.
Of course. Read the paper.
Oh, okay.
Keep
yeah,
moving.
you're right.
Keep going. Where are you going?
I'm sorry.
Come on, keep going.
It's public school, so it's going to take me a while to read the paper.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So we're not going to get to see the videotape on these body cameras, and the cop gets to review his shooting or whatever he's done. Well, so these body cameras, this money has been given to these folks to buy cameras to use on the public, but the public won't get to see them. So the cop gets to review it. So the only thing that the public gets is shafted. Is that right?
Not according to the ACLU.
Not according, so the ACLU said it's okay. They're in? Yeah, they're in. I was for body cameras as long as you release the videotape. But now you're not going to release the videotape, so I'm against them.
Again, I'd just like to congratulate my colleagues for speaking up and out on this. And just for the record, I am a woman. I'm a black woman. I'm not a transgender. I'm not a thing. And I like to expose, again, these experiments that are being implemented, just like Tuskegee was covered up, financed by the federal government, incriminating those black men that were intentionally injected with the syphilis virus, converting and giving black women hormones to change them into men so that they are not distractions to the white female or the Latina. And also creating or giving especially black male inmates more female hormones so that they are, I suppose...
Ma'am, you're off topic. This is regarding body cameras.
The videos, that are being used and spliced as I'm continually threatened. We have a video on you. We're taking pictures. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it because we know that, again, you don't have a Citizens Oversight Committee. What videos do you splice? Whenever I am harassed and provoked, by your provocateurs, the portion where I am harassed is edited out, and so I'm incriminated continuously. And I'm not speaking, of course, of videos which are in the car exclusively, but in general. You need an oversight committee because you're still human, and you will incriminate those that expose your violations of our civil and human rights. I'm, again, on the record standing against any videos and photographs used that can and will be manipulated in virtual reality and unreality to incriminate those who expose your injustice perpetrated against those of us speaking out against your means to manipulate, to incriminate, demonize, stereotype, and stigmatize those of us who are still alive, not bedridden, not in wheelchairs, not on the street, not possessed by your paranormal activities, remote viewing, or any other techniques used by your secret one world government to completely dehumanize those of us who are still in this world. I'm on the record against videos being manipulated. And you know
Clear
what's
comments,
happening.
ma'am.
Have a clear conscience.
Next speaker.
Tud Hayes.
What you see.
Ted Hayes, followed by Jamie Garcia, Hamid Khan, Jerry Dietrich, and Wayne.
I think I'd like to pursue whether or not these cameras affect the officers as well as affect the suspects they might be encountering. Everybody concedes that everything is being videoed. Officer wearing a body camera shoots a suspect who has his hands up. Officer beats a woman on a freeway and is videoed. Everything is being videoed. Bank robbers still going to the bank and rob it without a disguise. So why is it when everything is being videoed, people still carry on the same activity they did as if no one was watching at all? It's useful to make a determination like that. Somewhere somebody's written on it, compiled some stats on it as to why people behave as if they're not being observed or filmed or videoed or noticed. I'm not convinced that the video cameras are going to alter anything at all. A helicopter hovering above a guy on a horse, snatched off the horse and beaten up. Everyone knew that copter had a camera. Even the officer who did the assault on the guy who took him off the horse. So what can we say about people who know everything I'm doing in public is being taped, recorded, and videoed? Someone's watching, but it doesn't matter. It's a nevertheless situation. I really want to know that, Commissioner Soboroff, whether that really affects anyone, considering what we see every day that came off the 7-Eleven camera when a robbery took place and various other things. Does it really change anything in the heat of the moment? In the heat of the moment.
So I wanted to discuss a little bit about these body cameras in the context of surveillance and their addition to the larger architecture of surveillance that that the Stop LAPD Spying and my colleague was presenting to you. We have suspicious activity reporting, intelligence gathering guidelines, Stingray, and et cetera, and on. And these programs are just run basically on a trust us basis. So we've been trying to get information about the suspicious activity reporting program from LAPD, and there's been a refusal to release information in regards to these programs, very detailed, specific issues that we want to find out about. So body cameras have the same kind of essence. Their collection, storage, and sharing of the information is definitely very secretive to the public as well. And there's again this deference to LAPD to have access to the footage. We don't know what, as far as it's stored on evidence.com, there's no disclosure to who gets to access this information, how it's shared, the length of time it's stored. And we know that there's an active pursuit for biometrics. We know that there's a want for voice, there's a want for facial recognition. So what we want to know is what's the conjunction between body cameras and this active pursuit for biometrics and surveillance of the community. So what I would like to know, and I think Saltzman at one point brought this issue up when you guys were debating the policy about data storage, about where this information was going to go, what it was going to be used for. But unfortunately it hasn't been pursued, and it didn't seem like it was something of interest. But so in regards to how it's going to decrease issues of violence between police officers and the community, my question is why aren't we having access to this information, and how is it correlating to surveillance? And what we would like is a halting of this program, and we want a complete exposure of this. We want a complete discussion of where this data is going to, we know where the data is going to go, who's going to have access to it, if this data is going to be shared, and for how long it's going to be stored.
And a tool to expand the surveillance state. The Stop LAPD Spying Coalition then released a detailed report in April of 2015 when policy was being passed, again rejecting the use of body cameras. Soboroff was quick to point out a study by Harvard and Cambridge, but he forgot that a coalition of 40 national civil rights organizations just released a study a week ago as well. and they took 8 areas of the use of body cameras, and they looked at every major police department. And the Los Angeles Police Department scored lowest in 5 different areas, and they agreed with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition's contention at the time. Number one was that it will expand the surveillance state because all background footage is up for play. And all background footage, when you put in conjunction with facial recognition and other biometrics, absolutely adds to the much more expanded surveillance state that we already live in. Secondly is the pre-review of the footage by officers, which Commissioner Soboroff would never do that, but Salzman had rejected, and that is a pre-review of the footage before the officer would file the report. Now, given the history of manipulation and lies that this department has, what we are opening up is a manipulation of reality. Secondly, then thirdly, it's about the issue of transparency, where people who even file their own complaints can't even review that footage. So you're taking away, and particularly a department that over the last 5 years has called every report of racial bias and racial profiling as zero sustained. Again, you're taking away the right from people who filed the complaint who wouldn't have the right to review this report. And lastly, it's again about evidence.com. It's again Rick Smith. It's again the CEO of Taser Exxon, who publicly announced that this is going to protect the officers. So once again, what we have is a program that from the beginning is flawed by design. And you're signing off $31 million.
Thank you. Your time is up,
You're signing off $31 million of people's money away to a department, to a program that is flawed by design. And it's going to be on your head.
The last speaker on this item, Wayne.
Before 1991, there was a nice little country called the DDR. Steve knows about the Deutsche Demokratische Republik. You know about the DDR. They had a nice little police department there called the Stasi. Der Stasi. Der Stasi over dieses Hunds. And that's the people. So all of this surveillance and the surveillance state was founded originally by the Nazi government, continued through the East Bloc, and now continued to this day. Because the Nazis found out how to create a private ownership, public and private partnership economy where you control everything. You control everyone. And whenever somebody gets out of line, you have a database available at your fingertips to take that person, smear that person, bribe that person, or even put that person in immediate custody at the will of the control group. And that's all this bullshit is. Because you guys go into the community and say, we want to stop shootings. No, you're using video and electrical weapon technology against one group, the people you need to move around, shove around, and relocate while you conduct your goddamn bankster operations and your redistricting and all of your economic activities. The 1% has all of the power, pays none of the taxes, and everybody else pays all the taxes and has no rights. And that's all of this is. And these people are going to use these words, and they're just words. They're not for the people. The cop is going to be able to review it and help him lie even more while he shot the next Riddell Jones. That's all this is for. Vote no. It's a scam. It's outrageous.
There are no other comment cards on this
move
item?
approval.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
No. And 4E, Department's report dated November 9th, 2015, relative to the grant application and award acceptance for the FY15 body-worn camera policy and implementation program grant award from the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Maggie Goodrich, CIO for LAPD again. So this is $1 million from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and this is actually $1 million on top of the nearly $2 million that we've already received from the National Institute of Justice. So this grant in particular is to help us with the procurement of the cameras. This will fund about 740 of those remaining 6,200 cameras. And in the last item we just went through in that report, this dollar amount is reflected in that budget. So much of it will come from the general fund, but just under $1 million will go toward cameras from this grant.
That's great.
Maggie, are we going to have a total of 7,000 or 7,000 plus what we have plus these?
A total of 7,000.
A total of 7.
Yes.
So deduct from that 860 or whatever and deduct these.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Good. No question.
Any other questions? Do we have any comments?
We have 2 comment cards. We have Prentice Jenkins and Wayne.
I just wanted all of you to see what a body camera looks like. That is a body camera. See? I can see you all. Body cameras. Those are body cameras. But you cannot review this footage. So whatever's on here, you won't be able to review it. Right? I'm going to do some dastardly stuff, too. You won't be able to see it. I mean the public. I'll get to review it, but the public won't. That's what a body camera looks like, folks. Back and forth. See those looks on their faces as they put their heads down? That's what you do in the 9th grade. They're acting like 9th graders, grown people. So you wonder how people get killed and shot in the community when a cop starts acting like a 9th grader. That's exactly what you're all acting like. Okay, here comes this guy. He's going to make fun of us. I don't make fun of you. I don't need to make fun of this board. This board does its own job of making fun of itself, telling us that they're going to have body cameras, but the public won't be able to review it. That is a joke. That's something you do in the 9th grade. And then you talk over there, like those 2 guys over there. See, they got their own conversation going on over there. What they're saying is, what these people are saying is, we will refuse to listen to the public. 1992, they refused to listen to the public. People with ties on that lived in Beverly Hills. They refused to listen to the public. And this sucker burned. Burn, baby, burn. Because of people like you who did this, pretending they were looking at something else. Put their heads down. I don't want to hear it. You're just some sucker from the community. I live in Beverly Hills. I live in Calabasas. We know what's going on in the hood. Yeah. Well, city burned.
Yes, the experts living in Calabasas and Beverly Hills, they know all about the hood. So the $1 million for your little camera project, Bureau of Justice Assistance. Well, when I was arrested illegally on last Tuesday, there was a camera on the back of the squad car, and they forgot to turn it on. Then they reminded themselves to turn it on. See, first when it was off, they said, okay, we're going to take you over to the station. Hey, fuck that. And then they turned on the camera in the back. So they turn it on when it's convenient. They shut it off when it's inconvenient. Because the cops turn it on and off. It doesn't automatically go on and off by a neutral third party. So that's the first problem you have. You can edit anything. You can make a video look like anything, especially with the cheap and available software technology today. But your cops, when you illegally arrested me and Mr. Hunt last week, you had this Sony video camera, kind of a big one. And there was one cop doing the videotaping, because that's a good use of a sworn officer, isn't it? To hold a video cam and videotape an illegal arrest. That's a good use of an officer. You wouldn't want that officer out on the beat actually preventing crime. No, he needs to be holding a camera a 9-fucking-year-old could operate, down in the street. And, there's a thing called reading your rights. I didn't fucking hear any rights read to me. I just heard, we're going to wait and call the mayor. And we're going to wait and call the 2 detectives. The 2 detectives are going to speak to me, but in the hallway, they called the mayor's office to ask him if I should be released. You know what he said? Fuck that little Jew. Keep his ass in there, and they kept me for 13 hours. Fuck you, Garcetti.
We have no other cards on this item.
Do I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all you're doing.
We're now on item number 5, public comment. We have 10 comment cards. The first 5, the Red Chief Hunt, Prentice Jenkins, Wayne, Yvonne Michelle Autry, and Paula Miner.
Mr. President, it'd be helpful if the board secretary called all of them, and those who don't respond, we would know they're not here to facilitate the meeting.
Okay, the next five: Damon Jackson, Michael Williams, Ted Hayes, Bill Watkins, and Hamid. So, 8 of the 10.
Michael Hunt's been discriminated against for 699 days now by the city of Los Angeles. But I've got so many other things to talk about. If we don't cover them, you can see them on ladailyblog.com. We talk all about Los Angeles politics. Now, I'm Matt Dowd. I'm on a federal lawsuit. It's a First Amendment lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. That's why I'm on blackout today. It's another First Amendment protest. My head's getting squeezed inside the ski mask. I don't know how Zuma Dog does it all day. But I'm on this lawsuit with Michael Hunt. Mike Hunt. And I'm going to come here every day and talk about Mike Hunt. Because I'm sick of bringing Mike Hunt down to City Hall. Mike Hunt's been violated.
That's just a little bit previously what we went through before we won $260,000 and cost the city about $10 million in attorney's fees. Now, here's what I say to that. I got a $100 ticket there that's costing the city $200,000 about vending after I already won and I'm a 9th Circuit winner. Sometimes we have to cut the BS and get back to the basics. Pacing, you're the oldest chief here. I got to hold you kind of responsible. You come with us from over there to here. You know better. You was taught by Braden, who got us off the federal consent decree. Buckle up and tighten down. The city has already paid $10 million for something like this. Don't let it happen again. Thank you, the Red Chief Hunt.
Prentice Jenkins.
Got my body camera on again. Just to make sure everybody's on the up and up. You know, I like that statement right there. Integrity in all we say and do. When I was 10 years old, I had my hand in my mother's purse trying to steal $5. And she caught me. And guess what? I told her, she's reaching. What do you mean I'm stealing money? I'm not stealing money with my hand still in her purse. I said, Mama, you're imagining this stuff. I wouldn't do that. Because there's integrity in all I say and do. So there's no way, with my hand still in her purse, that I would ever steal from you. I'm your little boy. I'm your best boy. Yeah, I'm your best boy. That's exactly what the cops are telling us. Trust us. I kept telling my mother, trust me, I would never steal from you. There's no way. You're my mother. There's no way I would steal from you $5. I don't need candy. I just need your love. So trust me when I say I'm not stealing from your purse. I was zipping it up. That's why I saw it open and I was zipping it up, Mom. So you can trust me on that. There's no way I would steal from you. I'm your best boy. That's what you're all saying. Trust us on the cameras. We love the public. There's no way we lie to you. You won't get to see it. I've got something on here, this video, my body camera, where I'm doing something really weird with my big toe. But guess what? None of you will get to see it. None of you. I know you guys like to watch. Come on. You like to watch. But you won't see this one because only I can view this video on this body camera. And trust me, whatever's on here, I'm going to be on the up and up on it.
Wayne.
Let's look at some of the bullshit on the walls here. To protect and to serve. Me, 13 and a half hours being illegally detained and tortured and subject to inhumane treatment. You don't protect and serve a fucking thing. Take it down. Reverence for the law. You don't even know what the fucking law is, so you don't have any reverence for the law. You call 2 law professors on this panel. You ever heard of Bernard S. Jefferson? He wrote the Bench Book. That was my constitutional, my evidence fucking teacher, okay? I was taught the fucking law by the real guy, all right? And his brother was lynched, and he was the first black to graduate from Harvard. Second Circuit Court of Appeals, Honorable Bernard S. Justice, all right? Justice Jefferson. Okay, that was a real law professor, not this fucking fake. And then you got commitment to leadership. You're leaderless. You're a boat without a rudder. You're leaderless. Take it down. Integrity in all we say and do. You, no. The victims outside, yes. You, no. Change it to Black Lives Matter has integrity in all we say and do. Quality through continuous improvement. You need to start improving your shit. You need to start soul searching. You need to start looking inside yourself. When my mother died when I was 13 years old of cancer, I wanted to fucking kill myself. I was depressed for 2.5 years, but I found that you got to live. You have to live no matter what. You guys don't live in reality. You live in fucking fantasy land. While you overrule everything, including the U.S. Constitution. So take it all down on these walls.
Damon Jackson.
Hello, y'all know who I am. I'm here, Teru Williams. I'm speaking for my friend Damon Jackson that was killed by LAPD and all the other people that have been murdered by LAPD. Burdell Jones, Ezell Ford, and numerous others. And as I know how bad you guys are because, you guys shot me in my back. I'll keep calling Alexander Bustamante to help me out because you're a Inspector General. You probably ain't worth a damn because I've been calling you out for the last, since earlier this year. And I'm talking about the rest of this board that's pretty bad. I don't know too much about you because you just came here, but as far as I know, y'all all pretty bad. I mean, look at these body cameras. I mean, y'all shot me, and how many police officers was there? Well, let's see how many police officers are here to listen to what the public got to say. Obviously, the police don't care what the public got to say because guess what? They're not here. Because the guy that was just sitting right here, Mr. Chandler Geddes, whatever his name is, he the one that signed my paperwork saying that they didn't shoot me in my back. So all this commitment to leadership, reverence for the law is full of shit because y'all shot me in my back, and how many police officers seen it? How many medical people, examiners, which y'all want to claim me that I'm mentally disabled or something, right? That I'm psychopathic or whatever mental illness y'all want to say that I have. And y'all said that I was amnesia to the event. Y'all said I don't even know what happened. But obviously, I can state exactly what happened before I blacked out and almost died, right? But as again, I don't care about y'all body cameras because, like you just said, that y'all going to shoot people regardless. It doesn't matter if you got it on camera or not. You're going to shoot us, and you're not going to let the public see it. Y'all going to continue to edit and do, but he did this and he said that, and come on, man, and all this statistics about this crime. I mean, come on, man, all y'all want to do is make more police officers. We don't need more police officers. We need more leaders that's for the community.
Paula Miner.
I, too, as I said earlier, was not allowed to come back into the commission last week. So we didn't, as Black Lives Matter members, get to make any comments on Commissioner Johnson's report and request to the Office of Inspector General. We did watch the meeting online, and we heard the detail of his request. While we recognize it as a tiny step forward, we feel that most of what he requested the OIG to do, they should have already been doing. And because of some of the issues that we've heard about statistics and data and the OIG, we do want to request that an independent group be allowed to participate in the data gathering, in writing the report. We also request that Commissioner Johnson's plan include community input and community language, especially when the OIG report comes back, when it comes back to this committee, and before any further recommendations are made. We recommend that community input and community language include Black Lives Matter, the Youth Justice Coalition, Stop LA Spine, LA Can, SEIU, and other groups that have been coming to the commission meetings repeatedly. We heard online that some of the commissions question whether or not Black Lives Matter is a viable group. Do we represent the so-called good people? Yes, we are viable. If Black Lives Matter and other groups had not been coming to commission meetings ever since the death of Ezell Ford in August 2014, I doubt that a report or request like Commissioner Johnson's would have been developed. So we understand there are serious problems. We continue to advocate to stop shooting. We speak up about the deaths of Brother Africa, Riddell Jones, Norma Guzman, and others. We request more community input as decisions are made. We also request that the committee look at some restructuring by holding meetings at times convenient to the community and by adding a community person to the commission.
Yvonne Michelle Autry.
Okay, yeah, just so you know, there is no blood on my hands. Again, repent, confess your sins while you still can. This is for all of us. We're all under grace and mercy. And the Bible talks about Jews that are Jews in name only, but are really synagogues of Satan. Okay, and you know, I really do take offense at the continued incrimination of Muslim people. I'm a Christian. I've been called continually a terrorist Muslim. I got to be an alien Egyptian, or I got to be a Martian just because I expose what, Jews that are very prosperous have, and you know, the powers that be, and incriminating people that live to tell what you're doing to the general population at large. Illegal civilian experiments. And about Paris, okay, this is a diversion. Why don't you handle what's happening in your own community, notwithstanding in your own city, instead of, this is a diversionary tactic. And I pray for those families. I pray for those families. And God rest and God bless those souls. But you know, America perpetrated 9/11 as a ritual, and I wouldn't put it past the CIA with all of their covert, illicit, wars and their coups that they create so you can maintain white supremacy on a worldwide level and divert attention and blame to the bin Ladens and the Saddam Husseins when you're continually to exterminate black people who you've tried to exterminate for 400 years. Now you have Hispanic people to replace us, so we're not dying fast enough from AIDS and trying to make us homosexual. Yeah, and just for the record, I'm a heterosexual black woman still walking upright. I'm not homosexual. I'm not a man. I'm not a thing, despite your shots to shrink and make us offensive and smell so that no man will want to reproduce another outspoken black woman. So this is all coming to light now. And I speak in defense of other black women who are continually subjugated for ritual. You know your ritual. Stop the ritual. We are not your sources of energy. And for you vampires and cannibals as well, for your sources, you need to go to God. Get some sunlight.
Ted Hayes.
Last week there was an attempt to entrap all of us. The president kicked us out. We went into the lobby, and they declared our presence in the lobby to be an unlawful assembly. Now, this is what the jury gets when you go to trial for an unlawful assembly. And it says 2 or more persons involved in violence. Never occurred. Never occurred. Also it says the defendant willfully participated in the unlawful assembly. No, the president kicked us out. We didn't willfully go out there. The defendant knew that this assembly was unlawful when he participated. Had no idea. Once we stepped into the lobby, we were under unlawful assembly. The other thing we need to talk about is the rules of the commission. Penal Code says authorization to clear the room where the meeting is willfully interrupted, readmission. The rules have no mention of readmission. You don't have to state that, But it would be fair if you pointed out that those who did not disturb would be readmitted. Then, of course, it says here, the presiding officer may call for a recess. Okay, everyone's gone. Order the meeting room, call for recess, and order the meeting room cleared. Well, if everyone's gone in the recess, how can the meeting room be cleared by anyone? Anyway, these are civil rights violations. When you tell people they must not only leave the lobby, but leave the entire grounds, go to 1st Street, 2nd Street, you can't be here. That's a violation of our civil rights. You will hear from us on that. Now, I believe you've got attorney-client privilege. I'm confident your attorney advised you differently from what you're doing.
Hamid Khan. Hamid Khan.
This is the last one?
This is the last one. We do have 3 and 6.
On November 9th, the Drone-Free LAPD No Drones LA campaign from the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition wrote a letter to Mayor Garcetti demanding about the status of the drones. And what we have here is that since September of last year, apparently the drones have been sitting at the Inspector General's office, the 2 Dragonfly X6 drones that were received from Seattle. But we've been asking about the status. We were told that the LAPD had been doing community outreach, which we found out through a Public Records Act that was all a lie. We were told that the Chief Beck was reaching out to the ACLU, and the ACLU denied all of that. So it's been about a year. It's about a year and a half since these killing machines have been very much in possession of the LAPD, even if they're in the Inspector General's office. And we confronted the mayor at a town hall meeting in South Central, demanding about the status of the drone, and he says, well, I mean, he would like to do something about it. And we're demanding that these drones be destructed. They just completely need to be destroyed, or they need to be given back to the manufacturer. They were given as a gift by the Seattle Police Department to LAPD after other PDs had refused that. Most recently, the state of North Dakota just passed a legislation of weaponized drones, police weaponized drones, where police will have drones that will what they call non-lethal weapons. And this legislation was passed in August of 2015. So we are just giving you a notice that we're amping up our campaign again. We can't allow these machines to be sitting in the city of Los Angeles, even if they're at the IG's office. They need to be taken out of here. We need to get rid of them. We need to either send them back to the manufacturer, or they need to be destroyed. So you should have a copy of the letter. You should have a copy of the letter as well. It's a detailed letter. It details everything. One thing of note that I just want to highlight in this letter is that the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, just came out with a report that 700 of close calls with airliners happened between January and August of 2015. So what you have is these dangerous machines that are flying around in these skies, but we're demanding that the LAPD, we need to get rid of these drones immediately.
Thank you for your comments.
We're now on item 6, closed session. We do have 2 cards for 6A and 1 for 6B. We have Prentice Jenkins and Wayne on 6A.
Officer-involved shootings, OSIs, OIS. Question is, how many officers have been dismissed for shooting individuals just walking down the street? You have Mr. Chief Hank, can I get a number on those officers who have been dismissed from the police department for killing someone? Is that possible? To get the numbers on that? Or are they in that book back there?
They're not in that book.
Okay. I'd like to get that answer on how many officers have been dismissed. It's probably not a lot. How many officers have actually discharged their guns, and how many officers have been dismissed for discharging their guns? I'm sure that, trust me, I understand that cops need to discharge their guns sometime, especially when Chief Beck told us about that guy who wrestled with that shotgun. I'm sure if I was a cop, I'd have shot him. And I'm here talking about trying to stop. Hey, there's my pen. What do you know? Wow. Yeah, been looking for this. Anyway, so how many cops have been dismissed? Does this board know? We're talking about individuals just walking down the street, minding their own business, and then they got killed. I walk down the street, mind my own business. I could get killed. I'm shocked that no one knows those numbers. Or you're saying that we know the numbers, but we can't give them to you. See, believe it or not, I'm 56 years old. As a black man, I lived 40 years past my life expectancy. Absolutely. 40 years past my life expectancy. Should have been dead a long time ago. But Ezekiel Ford can't say that.
There's a person who got shot, Riddell Jones. What about that? What about, what's this OIS number 79-14 versus OIS 002-15? Does that mean that was the 79th shooting in 2014 and that this was the second shooting in 2015? Yes, that's how you hide your little numbers there, see? So, 2 shootings, nobody mentioned. For all we know, this could be Riddell Jones's shooting. We don't know. You don't want to tell us who the victim is. You don't want to tell us anything about it, just a bunch of numbers so you can go in the back in your closed session, eat your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and drink your Diet Cokes, and then tell everybody how caring you are about the public while you figure out how you're going to get these cops back on the road again so they can go and arm up and take care of the next homeless assholes that are on the streets over there in that redevelopment area over there in South Park. See, you got work to do. You got buildings to renovate. You've got homeless people to get out of the way. You've got black people to get out of the way so that you can get those Korean and those white renters in those apartments called lofts. Because you got to build more lofts. Because you have to call an apartment a loft while you shoot people with deadly force because they're in the wrong fucking place at the wrong time. If you're homeless and you're in a redevelopment zone, you are subject to being shot merely for that reason alone. If you are black and you are in South Central at night, you are subject to being shot. But you don't want to tell us which one of these numbers is the Riddell Jones investigation. Which one of the 2 is it? Well, it can't be either one because it's not a high enough number. And then I like number 2 where you got room for the 100th shooting because you start at 002. So right away in 2015, you assumed you'd have over 100 police shootings. And that's exactly why you got a lot of room for that. But you'll go back, you'll have your little luncheon in the back, pat yourselves on the back that you were tough on these people. Oh, yes. You'll show them, you'll fire them today, won't you? Sure you will.
Okay, we have one comment card for 6B. We have Wayne.
Everybody's favorite, the chief of police performance evaluation. We have to have a 10-point system for this evaluation. So, possible board action on the annual evaluation. Really? You mean you take action against poor Charlie Beck? He's not even here. How can somebody being accused of anything not face his accusers? You have to have Charlie Beck here before you can go and accuse him of anything because he has a right under the Constitution, Professor Saltzman and Professor Kim, to face his accusers. Obviously, part of this could be discipline, so there must be allegations. What are those possible allegations against Chief Beck? Why isn't he here? Why isn't he here to face his accusers? So here's a nice word, in absentia. Do any of you know what that means? Yeah, the 2 law professors know who that means in their absence. So you're going to give an evaluation of your police chief, Charlie Beck, in his absence. So like Clint Eastwood did at the convention where he debated an empty chair. You're going to put an empty chair in the back room, and it's going to say Charlie Beck on it, and you're going to evaluate him. Well, he's not here. What a fucking laugh this is. And then isn't that great? You should have brought Clint Eastwood to do it. He should have done it right out here, have an empty chair with Charlie Beck and evaluate him. Because he's not here. So you're not going to have an evaluation. You're just going to file and receive a report. You're going to come out and say action by the commission on 6B, report in closed session filed and received. That means after your second peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you're out the door for your turkey holiday weekend.
And we have no other comments. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item number 6A and 6B in accordance with Government Code 54957. The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We're back in open session. In closed session, item number 6A1 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 6A2 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. And in closed session, item number 6B was discussed. Mr. Vice President, is there a motion for adjournment?
Second. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy, and I'm in Little Tokyo, and you're watching Channel 35, Your City, Your Channel.
I'm standing here in San Pedro at the Red Car Railroad Station. This is a classic train dating back many, many years, and it's a real tourist attraction here in San Pedro. So come with me as we find out more about the history of the classic Red Car.